Chapter 10:16. Bang! The starry sky exploded and turned into a vacuum. The heaven and earth mystic yellow exquisite step was Lao Tzu's strongest spiritual treasure. Even a heavenly sage could be suppressed within this pagoda. Rumble. The black-yellow gas was as heavy as the sky and constantly flowed around the pagoda. It suddenly suppressed Yi Xian into the pagoda and then flew back to Lao Tzu's hand. Yi Xian, you little brat, have a taste of this black-yellow gas. Even if the black-yellow gas can't kill you, you will definitely suffer the pain of being suppressed by it, Lao Tzu said coldly. He had incomparable confidence in the Tiandi Xianhuang Linglong pagoda. Clang, clang, clang. Suddenly, just as Lao Tzu finished speaking, an extremely terrifying thing happened. The heaven and earth mystic yellow exquisite pagoda kept shaking. Fist imprints kept growing on the pagoda, and the pagoda, which was originally 3 feet tall, kept expanding. This. Lao Tzu's expression changed drastically, and he hurriedly threw the pagoda out. 1 foot, 100 feet, 1,000 feet, 1,000 feet, 100,000 feet. When the Tiandi Xianhuang Linglong pagoda became 10,000 feet tall, the rumbling and shaking sound from the pagoda exploded in the starry sky. It was so terrifying that it could even shatter one's soul. Bang! It was as if the heavens and earth were collapsing. The Xianhuang pagoda of heaven and earth exploded with a loud bang, turning into fragments that scattered in the starry sky. A dark, boundless figure also appeared. Puff! A mouthful of golden saint blood spurted out from Lao Tzu's mouth. His face instantly turned pale, and he staggered back. He looked at Yi Xian with an extremely shocked expression. How is this possible? How can you be so strong? Lao Tzu muttered in a trembling voice, as if he didn't want to accept this terrifying result. However, saint blood was still flowing from the corner of his mouth. He was completely stunned on the spot. The Tiandi Xianhuang Linglong pagoda was connected to Lao Tzu's mind. At this moment, Yi Xian had shattered it, causing him to suffer heavy injuries. Fortunately, this kind of injury was still bearable for Lao Tzu. However, Yi Xian's strength made Lao Tzu's mind extremely turbulent, and a great sense of powerlessness rose in his heart. You've disappointed me. Yi Xian had lost his interest in Lao Tzu. Although their cultivation was similar, his body was invulnerable. Lao Tzu was not something that Lao Tzu could touch him. Good. Seeing that Yi Xian had broken free, Tong Tian cheered loudly. The 4 immortal slaying swords stirred up the starry sky once again, bringing with them boundless saint power to attack Yuanshi Tianzuan and the other 2. Yuanshi Tianzuan and the 2 sages of the west had heavy expressions on their faces. This was because they had seen the battle between Yi Xian and Lao Tzu. They didn't expect that even Lao Tzu couldn't suppress Yi Xian. This caused their morale to drop continuously. Boom! Time and space changed, and the starry sky sank. Yi Xian took a step forward, and the starry sky behind him shattered into a vacuum. His entire body once again appeared in front of Lao Tzu. Come, take my punch. Yi Xian laughed wildly. When he punched out, it brought with it a sky-piercing fist light. This also caused Lao Tzu to hurriedly take out his Taiji diagram, wanting to block Yi Xian's tyrannical attack. Clang! Wah! Yi Xian's punch sent the Taiji diagram flying. Cracks appeared on the diagram. Although Lao Tzu was the leader of the 3 pure ones, his body was too weak compared to Yi Xian's. His entire body was sent flying millions of miles away by Yi Xian's punch. You're too weak. Yi Xian's 5 tribulations of the heavenly Tao, coupled with his terrifyingly powerful body, made Yi Xian an almost invincible existence. Rumble. Yi Xian's body violently expanded until he turned into a 10,000-meter tall giant. As he walked in the vast starry sky, it caused the 33 heavens to rumble and shake. Bang! A punch pierced through the starry sky, and a foot shattered the galaxy. The tyrannical aura pierced through the 3 realms. When Yi Xian punched out, Lao Tzu panicked and took out his heavenly Tao great technique. However, he was still sent flying, unable to resist at all. One qi into 3 pure ones. Lao Tzu roared in anger. He was a heavenly Tao sage and the leader of the 3 pure ones. He would never allow himself to be defeated by Yi Xian. Rumble. The heavenly Tao law descended, and a vast Tao connotation was terrifying. Lao Tzu's body flickered, and the sound of great Tao chanting could be heard in the void. Buzz. A terrifying thing happened. Laozi split into 3, and 3 identical heavenly lords of Tao and virtue appeared. Even the auras radiating from their bodies were extremely powerful and terrifying. Change. The 3 Tao Tianzuan formed hand seals, and a terrifying Tao connotation surrounded them. They actually became 10,000 meter tall. They looked at Yi Xian with anger. One qi into 3 pure ones. Yi Xian smiled faintly, and there was no surprise on his face. This was Lao Tzu's strongest technique. The 2 clones both had Lao Tzu's full cultivation. In other words, he had to face 3 Tao Tianzuan. Come. It was also 1 versus 3. However, Yi Xian was facing 3 Tao Tianzuan. This was an extremely terrifying battle. Even Tong Tian felt suffocated, and there was a faint trace of worry in his eyes. Change. The 3 Tao Tianzuan attacked, and directly condensed 3 heavenly Tao killing swords. With the heavenly Tao killing light, they slashed towards Yi Xian. One force breaks all techniques. Yi Xian was completely fearless. Although he was 1 versus 3, he walked the path of proving his Tao through strength. He believed that one force could break all techniques. No matter how many enemies there were, as long as they didn't surpass him by too much, he could suppress them all. This was also the terrifying part of proving one's Tao through strength. Bang! 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 The 3 heavenly Tao killing swords turned into starlight and couldn't cause any harm to Yi Xian. However, facing 3 Tao Tianzuan, Yi Xian also felt a great deal of pressure. I'll suppress you. Yi Xian's 10,000 meter tall body moved forward. He ignored the killing techniques that the 3 Tao Tianzuan launched at him, and his invulnerable body instantly appeared in front of the 3 Tao Tianzuan. Rumble. The first punch swept through the heavenly river, the second punch suppressed the past and present, and the third punch broke open heaven and earth. The 3 Tao Tianzuan faced the attack in panic and completely engaged in battle with Yi Xian. The starry sky was collapsing, and the great stars were exploding. The battle between Yi Xian and the 3 Tao Tianzuan had completely entered a white-hot stage. Every collision of great techniques and physical bodies caused the outside of the 33 heavens to shatter. The 2 of them showed signs of breaking into the earth immortal world. Tao Tianzuan, you're still far from enough. Suddenly, Yi Xian's wild laughter exploded in the 3 realms. Heaven, earth, and space-time stopped at this moment. Although it was only for a breath's time, it determined the entire 3 realms. Space-time power. Yi Xian only used a trace of space-time power. This was the result of his 10,000 years of seclusion, and the first test was the Tao Tianzuan and Lao Tzu. Stillness. It was only a moment of stillness, but this was the true stillness of time and space. The 3 celestial sovereigns of the 3 orthodoxies stopped moving. Even the Tong Tian and the others who were fighting each other stopped moving. Heaven and earth were silent, and all things were still. Only Yi Xian took a step forward and appeared in front of the 3 Tao Tianzuan. The 3 fist lights that tore through the starry sky crashed into the 3 Tao Tianzuan. Chapter 10:17. Bang! Crack! The sound of a mirror shattering could be heard, and the space-time between heaven and earth resumed its operation. However, Yi Xian's attack also landed on the 3 Tao Tianzuan's bodies. Bang! 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 Heaven and earth exploded, and everything was destroyed. Lao Tzu's mind had just recovered, but he couldn't dodge Yi Xian's killing blow. His 3 bodies exploded into a bloody mist. Senior brother. Yuanshi Tianzuan looked at him in shock. He didn't know what had just happened, but Lao Tzu had actually been blasted into pieces by Yi Xian. This simply shocked him to the core, and he couldn't believe that such a thing could happen. Tai Ching reincarnation technique. Suddenly, the heavenly lord of Tao and Virtue's voice rumbled. Strands of Tao started to form in the starry sky. The 3 balls of blood mist started to fuse together, and the heavenly lord of Tao and Virtue appeared once again. Huff! 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 Lao Tzu was panting heavily, and his face was already pale. He looked at Yi Xian with an extremely horrified expression, because he had no idea how he had been blasted into pieces by Yi Xian just now. You! What kind of technique did you use? How could you break my 1 qi into 3 pure ones? Lao Tzu trembled as he spoke. Until now, he still hadn't recovered from his shock, because the scene just now was too terrifying. He actually didn't know how he had been defeated. Unfortunately, Yi Xian didn't answer his question, because what he had just used wasn't any technique, but a wisp of space-time power that he had nurtured. The space-time power is indeed terrifying. I only used a wisp, and it actually froze the 3 realms for a breath's time. Even heavenly path sages couldn't escape. Yi Xian was expressionless, but his inner breath was extremely excited. He had also truly experienced the terror of the space-time power. It was indeed a power that surpassed the heavenly path. However, Yi Xian felt a little regretful that he had just used a wisp of the space-time power, which consumed a lot of his cultivation. Obviously, the space-time power was also closely related to his cultivation, so he couldn't use it at will. World-suppressing heavenly steel. Suddenly, Yi Xian's hands formed a seal, and a black heavenly steel materialized, crashing down on Lao Tzu. Lao Tzu had just been severely injured, so he had no strength to resist Yi Xian's suppression technique. Rumble. A terrifying suppressive force descended, instantly suppressing Laozi on the spot. His cultivation was sealed within the world-suppressing heavenly steel, and his entire body was sucked over by Yi Xian. The head of the 3 pure ones is nothing. Yi Xian's body gradually returned to its normal size, and the world-suppressing heavenly steel gradually returned to its normal size. Laozi was also completely absorbed into the world-suppressing heavenly steel. Senior brother. Lao Tzu was defeated and suppressed in the heavenly steel. This made Yuanshi Tianzuan's heart tremble. The Pangu banner in his hand was knocked out of his hand by Tong Tian, and his chest was pierced through by the Zhu Immortal sword. A mouthful of golden blood spurted out from his mouth. Yuanshi. The 2 saints of the West were horrified. 10,000 rays of Buddhist light shot towards Tong Tian, and then instantly caught Yuanshi Tianzuan. The 3 of them instantly retreated, and looked at Yi Xian and Tong Tian in horror. Fellow Taoist Tong Tian. Yi Xian slowly walked over with the world-suppressing heavenly steel in his hand. Lao Tzu was already suppressed by him, and at this moment, his eyes were filled with unprecedented killing intent as he looked at the 3 saints. Many thanks for helping me, fellow Taoist. Tong Tian's face was full of excitement. His sword pierced Yuanshi Tianzuan's chest, and directly injured his vitality. Now that Lao Tzu was also suppressed by Yi Xian, the 2 saints of the West were nothing to be afraid of. We admit defeat. The 2 saints of the West had ashamed and indignant expressions. It was all because Yi Xian was too terrifying. Now that even the heavenly sovereign of primordial beginning had suffered heavy injuries, how could the 2 of them be a match for Yi Xian and the Grand Master of Heaven? Junior brother Tong Tian, you win. Yuanshi Tianzuan's mouth was bleeding, and the bloody hole in his chest was unusually conspicuous. However, he also knew that he had lost, and this was an ironclad fact. Senior brother Tong Tian, I've already admitted defeat. Why don't you hurry up and let senior brother out? Yuanshi Tianzuan wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth. He looked at Yi Xian with a heavy expression, but he was shouting at Tong Tian. Tong Tian exhaled a mouthful of turbid air, and the 4 immortal extermination swords circled around him. Now that Yuanshi Tianzuan had bowed his head to him, and the 2 saints of the West had admitted defeat, he had washed away the shame of the God Seal War. Yi Daoyu, please let Dao Tianzuan go, Tong Tian said with cupped hands. Let him go. Yi Xian frowned, then looked at Tong Tian and said, fellow Taoist Tong Tian, don't you want to kill them? Hiss. As Yi Xian's words fell, Tong Tian was stunned, and the 2 saints of the West and Yuanshi Tianzuan sucked in a breath of cold air. The thing they were most worried about had happened. Kill them? Tong Tian said in a daze, because he had never thought of this problem. Heavenly Path saints could not be killed, and he only wanted to wash away the shame of the God Seal War. He had never thought of killing Yuanshi Tianzuan and the others. Junior brother. Lao Tzu was suppressed in the divine steel, and he anxiously shouted at Tong Tian, Junior brother Tong Tian, although you hate me and junior brother Yuanshi, we are of the same origin, and we are all transformed from Pangu's primordial spirit. Noisy. Yi Xian scolded and pressed his palm on the divine steel, instantly making Dao Tianzuan let out a muffled groan, and he could no longer say anything to dissuade him. Junior brother Tong Tian, everything is my fault, Yuanshi. However, the 3 pure ones are of the same origin. Do you really want to fight to the death before you are willing to stop? Yuanshi Tianzuan said with a trembling voice. Fellow Taoist Tong Tian, don't forget that during the God Seal War, they did not have the means to kill you, so they allowed you to leave the Azure Palace in defeat. What kind of brotherhood is there to speak of? Yi Xian said coldly in a low voice. Yi Xian. Yuanshi Tianzuan's expression was cold, and he looked at Yi Xian with hatred, but his eyes were full of fear. At this moment, Tong Tian was silent. He knew that Yi Xian was right. There was no friendship between him and Yuanshi Tianzuan and Dao Tianzuan. Tong Tian also knew that Yi Xian could kill Nuwa back then, and he also had a way to kill the Heavenly Path Sage. However, he really could not kill Yuanshi Tianzuan and Dao Tianzuan. Just as the 2 of them said, the 3 pure ones were formed by Pangu's primordial spirit. If he really did that, he would not be able to get past himself. Yi Daoyu, please let Dao Tianzuan go. Tong Tian said solemnly, and he even bowed to Yi Xian. Have you really decided? Yi Xian frowned slightly. Fellow Taoist, please understand my difficulties. Tong Tian said bitterly. All right. Yi Xian nodded slowly, but there was deep disappointment in his eyes. I owe you, Tong Tian. Today, I will repay you in full. Yi Xian waved his hand and the world-suppressing celestial steel scattered. A clear chi shot out and turned into Lao Tzu's appearance. I can spare the 2 of them today, but the 2 sages of the West must die today. Suddenly, Yi Xian said coldly, and his palm reached out toward the 2 sages of the West. Heaven and earth suddenly froze, and the 2 sages of the West were horrified. Chapter 10:18. Rumble. Yi Xian's palm strike was so terrifying that it seemed as if he was going to crush the entire starry sky. The 2 sages of the Western sect hastily parried the attack, their hearts trembling to the extreme. Bang! It was just 1 palm strike, but the 2 sages of the Western sect were unable to resist it at all. They were sent flying by Yi Xian's palm strike. The Heavenly Path Saint power on their bodies collapsed inch by inch, and cracks appeared on their glazed Buddha bodies like spiderwebs. Strong, too strong. Yi Xian was so strong that he was invincible. The 2 sages of the Western sect were simply throwing eggs at a rock when they faced an invincible existence like Yi Xian. Pfft! The 2 sages of the Western sect spat out mouthfuls of blood, their palms turning into a bloody mess. The 2 of them looked at each other with great panic. Go! Jane roared in a trembling voice. He turned into a beam of light and tried to escape. Taoist Juanti was even worse. He did not even bother to retrieve the Tree of Seven Wonders in his hand and fled like a stray dog. In the past, Yi Xian was just an ant in the eyes of the two sages of the Western sect. But now, Yi Xian was invincible in the three realms. How would the two sages of the Western sect dare to fight with Yi Xian? Do you think you can escape? Yi Xian's expression was cold, and a contemptuous smile appeared on his lips. Logically speaking, even if the two sages of the Western sect could not defeat Yi Xian, they could still escape. After all, they were Heavenly Path saints. With the support of the Heavenly Path power, they could completely hide their tracks. Unfortunately, when Yi Xian nurtured the time and space seed, he even grasped a trace of the power of time and space. Even if a heavenly saint wanted to escape his control, it was simply impossible. Space-time reversal. Rumble. Yi Xian roared. He formed a seal with both hands, and the starry sky suddenly stopped. Time and space reversed, and the two sages of the Western sect strangely appeared in front of Yi Xian. The power of time and space was vast and boundless. It was a supreme power that surpassed the heavenly Tao. Although Yi Xian could only use a sliver of it, it was still not something that the two saints of the West could resist. Under the power of time and space, the two saints of the West would never be able to escape Yi Xian's control. Suppress. Yi Xian held up the sky with one hand, as if he was holding up the entire sky. He slammed it down towards the two saints of the West, and the destructive power was simply shocking. No! The two saints of the West shrieked in horror. The holy light of the heavenly law permeated the air, intending to forcefully resist Yi Xian's attack. Bang! Ah! There was an explosion in space, and blood rained down. The arms of the two saints of the West had turned into a bloody mist. Yi Xian's overbearing palm strike was simply too incomprehensible. The two of them were unable to withstand it at all, and they were sent flying into space. Their tattered bodies were stained with their blood. Seal. Yi Xian formed a seal with both hands, and two black runes shot out from his hands, directly suppressing the two saints of the West's head. Then, Yi Xian sucked them in front of him. 3 breaths. In just 3 breaths, Yi Xian had suppressed the two saints of the West. When this scene appeared before the eyes of the three pure ones, their gazes froze. Yuanshi Tianzuan and Lao Tzu's lips trembled, but in the end, they did not make any sound. Terrifying, too terrifying. Yi Xian was already unstoppable. The so-called heavenly law saints were as weak as chickens and dogs in front of him. This thought arose in the hearts of the three pure ones at the same time. Puff! 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 The two saints of the West coughed up large mouthfuls of blood. They were limp at Yi Xian's feet like dead dogs. Fortunately, they were supported by the power of the heavenly law. Otherwise, Yi Xian's attack would have taken their lives. Nirvana armor. Rumble. The Nirvana armor slowly appeared on the surface of Yi Xian's body like the roar of a chaotic beast. Terrifying black lightning spread out from it. Although Yi Xian had the cultivation to crush a heavenly law saint, if he wanted to kill a heavenly law saint, he would have to borrow the power of the Nirvana armor. This was because a heavenly law saint was immortal. Only the power of Nirvana contained in the Nirvana armor could truly kill the two saints of the West. Bang! With the Nirvana armor on his body, strands of black lightning raged. Yi Xian moved his hands and grabbed the necks of the two saints of the West, lifting them into the air. Crack! Black lightning flashed in Yi Xian's hands. A thick black fog spread toward the two saints of the West. Yi Xian was constantly channeling the power of Nirvana in the Nirvana armor. His eyes flashed with ferocious killing intent. Yi Xian had never forgotten the grudge between him and the two saints of the West. When the two saints of the West brought him back to the Western paradise, they used the soul-diverting Buddhist voice on him. He almost lost himself at that time. Fortunately, he survived. Yi Xian was a vengeful person. The two saints of the West had long been on his death list. Today was the day that he, Yi Xian, would kill the two saints of the West. You two pieces of trash. You didn't expect this day to come, did you? Yi Xian smiled cruelly. His 10 fingers were shrinking. An extremely terrifying force was exerted on the necks of the two saints of the West. It was as if he was going to twist their heads off. Yi Xian, spare me. Don't kill me. The two saints of the West trembled. The heavenly path's holy light was being destroyed inch by inch. The terrifying black lightning continued to wreak havoc on their bodies, turning their bodies into a bloody mess. Stop! Dao Tianzuan couldn't stand it any longer. He roared at Yi Xian and slapped at Yi Xian. Clearly, he wanted to save the two saints of the West. Do you want to die? A cold light flashed in Yi Xian's eyes. The heaven-destroying halberd rippled out from between his eyebrows. It turned into a black waterfall and pierced towards Dao Tianzuan. The halberd cut through space and exploded the sea of stars. Dao Tianzuan was already severely injured. How could he resist the heaven-destroying halberd, the #1 killing weapon of all time? The 3-meter-long halberd pierced through Dao Tianzuan's chest and nailed him alive in space. Dao Tianzuan's blood splattered across space. He looked extremely miserable. If Daoist Tong Tian didn't plead for mercy, I would have killed you today, Yi Xian said coldly. Just as Yi Xian said, he only didn't kill his father on account of the Grand Master of Heaven, and even spared the life of the heavenly sovereign of primordial beginning. Because Yi Xian owed Tong Tian a favor, he didn't do it even though he wanted to kill Lao Tzu and Yuanshi Tianzuan. Senior brother. Yuanshi Tianzuan's face was pale and he felt extremely helpless. He instantly flew in front of Lao Tzu and hurriedly rescued him from the heaven-destroying halberd. Yuanshi, Lao Tzu, I'm warning you too. It's best if you don't meddle in other people's business. Otherwise. Yi Xian didn't continue speaking, but the meaning behind his words was self-evident. Junior brother Tong Tian. Lao Tzu staggered over with the help of Yuanshi Tianzuan. His chest was pierced through by the heaven-destroying halberd. He looked extremely miserable, but he still begged Tong Tian with a bitter face. Junior brother, only you can persuade Yi Xian now. Please save them, Lao Tzu said in a trembling voice. Unfortunately, Tong Tian lowered his eyes and didn't respond. He had already begged Yi Xian to release Yuanshi and Lao Tzu. If he begged Yi Xian to release the two sages of the West, what kind of person would Tong Tian be? Chapter 10:19. Threaten Yi Xian with a favor. Just because Yi Xian owed him a favor. Tong Tian wouldn't do such a thing. He looked at Lao Tzu and flatly refused. If it weren't for the fact that you and Yuanshi are both formed from Panga's primordial soul, you too would have died today. You don't need to say anything more. Ha ha ha. Hearing Tong Tian's words, Yi Xian laughed wildly. Tong Tian really didn't disappoint him. At this time, the two sages of the West were pale, and despair appeared in their eyes. No one in the 3 realms could save them. It seemed that they would die in Yi Xian's hands today. Since there was no hope of survival, the two sages of the West were relieved, and there was no longer any fear on their faces. Yi Xian, you brat, we regret not killing you in the cradle earlier. Otherwise, how could we have died today? Jia Yin roared again and again. Yi Xian, you brat, don't think that you are invincible in the 3 realms just because you killed us two today. Sooner or later, your soul will scatter, Xuan Ti cursed angrily. You still dare to boast shamelessly even when you are about to die. Unfortunately, you won't be able to see the day my soul scatters. Now, I will send you on your way, Yi Xian said fiercely. Tribulation transcenders devour. Yi Xian roared towards the sky, and the tribulation transcenders devour madly operated. His entire body turned into a black vortex, crazily pulling at the grand mist purple aura inside the two sages of the West. Obviously, he wanted to extract it. Killing the two sages of the West would be too easy for them. Moreover, Yi Xian wasn't a wasteful person. As the saying went, make use of trash. He wanted to squeeze the last bit of value out of the two sages of the West. Extracting the grand mist purple aura of the two and directly knocking them down from their sage positions was what Yi Xian wanted to do. Ah! The two saints of the West howled in pain. This was because the tribulation transcender's bite was simply too cruel. Those who were subjected to this technique would feel as if their tendons were being pulled out and their skin peeled off. It was as if their bones were being pulled out inch by Yi Xian. Yi Xian, you'll die a horrible death. The two saints of the West were howling in pain. The primordial violet energy was being drawn out of their bodies bit by bit, accompanied by Yi Xian's cruel and savage laughter. Little friend Yi, you've gone too far. Suddenly, a gentle voice rang out from the three realms. The voice reverberated throughout the entire three realms, and even the surging river of stars outside the 33 heavens mysteriously came to a standstill. Thump, thump, thump. The thunderous roar of the heavenly Tao caused all things to stop. Strands of the golden light of the heavenly Tao sprinkled down into the three dimensions. The shattered ground gradually closed up, the collapsed mountains condensed back into form, and even the broken four great continents recovered to their original state. Everything in the world was recovering while vitality bloomed. Such an extremely astounding scene was occurring in the entire three dimensions. Outside the 33 heavens, a cyan figure seemed to have walked out from the chaos. With every step he took, the divine sound of the great Tao rumbled, and cyan lotuses bloomed all over the sky. With the appearance of this figure, the creatures of the three realms unconsciously knelt on the ground, and their souls trembled violently. Lying high in the 9 layers of clouds, the praying mat attains the truth. Outside the heaven and earth, I am the sect master. Pangu gave birth to the Taiji, and the yin and yang followed the 4 directions. One Tao passed down to 3 friends, and the 2 sects were divided into Chan and Jie. The profound sect led the way, transforming into Hongjun. The thunderous roar of the heavenly Tao shook the heavens. Strands of the immortal sound of the heavenly Tao continued to spread, and the shattered 33 heavens gradually recovered. Tao Ancestor Hongjun. Yi Xian's expression changed drastically. His brows were tightly knitted together, and his eyes were extremely heavy as he looked at the figure in the starry sky. Disciple Tong Tian greets teacher. Tong Tian's expression changed drastically, and he hurriedly knelt down. Disciple greets teacher. Dao Tianzuan and Yuanshi Tianzuan were overjoyed. They hurriedly dragged their heavily injured bodies and knelt down. Teacher, save me. The 2 Western saints originally had no hope of survival, but when Tao Ancestor Hongjun appeared, the 2 of them were pleasantly surprised and cried for help. Their eyes shone brightly. Above the starry sky, Tao Ancestor Hongjun slowly walked over. His body flickered with great Tao runes. He was like the heavens, the earth, and all living beings. He represented the supreme will of the heavenly Tao. Little friend Yi, we meet again. Tao Ancestor Hongjun did not move, nor did he release any aura. However, his appearance alone made Yi Xian's sacred heart beat non-stop. Who was Tao Ancestor Hongjun? He was the first person since the creation of the world. He was also the teacher of the heavenly Tao saint. He was also the incarnation of the heavenly Tao. He used his body to fuse with the Tao and controlled the heavenly Tao. The 8 words that were as heavy as the ancient firmament fully explained how terrifying Tao Ancestor Hongjun was. Although I want to see you very much, it's not the time. Yi Xian grabbed the necks of the 2 Western saints with both hands. He did not let them go because of Tao Ancestor Hongjun's appearance. Instead, he held the 2 Western saints tightly in his hands. He looked at Tao Ancestor Hongjun with a cold look in his eyes. Yi Xian had never forgotten that when he sought the opportunity to enter the sage-to-be, Tao Ancestor Hongjun appeared and pointed out a fork in the road for him. He almost lost himself in the inner demon. If it were not for Sun Wukong's guidance, he did not know when he would wake up. Little friend, do you hate me? Tao ancestor Hengjun smiled softly. Shouldn't I hate you? Yi Xian sneered. Little friend, you misunderstand. Back then, when I guided you on the sage to be, I did not mean to mislead you. I just wanted you to give up the method of proving your Tao through strength, Tao ancestor Hengjun said lightly. Unfortunately, you failed. I still walk the path of proving my Tao through strength, Yi Xian said gloomily. Little friend, you do have the bearing of Pangu, and now you have passed the 5 tribulations of the heavenly Tao. But little friend, do you know one thing? Tao ancestor Hengjun sighed. What is it? Yi Xian said coldly. This world was created by Pangu. He also fell under the 9 tribulations of the heavenly Tao. Little friend, you live in the world created by Pangu. If you really step into the 9 tribulations of the heavenly Tao, your strength will break this world, and your soul will scatter and die. That's why I advised you not to step on the path of proving your Tao through strength. I even left the 7th heavenly Tao saint to you. Unfortunately, little friend, you don't care about the heavenly Tao saint. Tao ancestor Hengjun sighed softly. Tao ancestor Hengjun, you control the heavenly Tao. It's laughable that you actually schemed against me, Yi Xian said sarcastically. I have never schemed against you. Everything is to allow the heavenly Tao to operate normally. Unfortunately, you are not from the 3 realms and are not under the control of the heavenly Tao. That's why a series of calamities happened, Tao ancestor Hengjun said softly. You want to kill me? Yi Xian's eyes narrowed. He could already feel the pressure of the heavenly Tao pressing down on him, causing him to faintly feel as if he couldn't breathe. I don't want to make things difficult for you. I just want to ask you to let go of Zhuan Ti and give up on your cultivation base of proving your Tao through strength, Tao ancestor Hengjun said tirelessly. Let go of Zhuan Ti. Give up the method of proving my Tao through strength? Yi Xian laughed. His smile was very sarcastic, and his eyes were filled with killing intent as he looked at Tao ancestor Hengjun. Hengjun, do you think that's possible? Under the heavenly Tao, all things are like dust. Even if you step into the 5 tribulations of the heavenly Tao, you will still be suppressed by me. This is your destiny, Tao ancestor Hengjun said calmly. Then I'll kill the 2 Western sages first. Let's see what you can do to me. Go to hell. Yi Xian immediately attacked and pressed down on the 2 Western sages with his palm. 2 wisps of primordial violet vapor were extracted by him. Clearly, if this attack hit, the 2 Western sages would definitely die. Freeze! The heavenly Tao's thunderous voice caused all things to sink. Tao ancestor Hengjun only pointed his finger, but Yi Xian was frozen on the spot. Terrifying, too terrifying. Tao ancestor Hengjun integrated with the Tao. He was the heavenly Tao, and the heavenly Tao was him. The entire 3 realms were under his control. Even if Yi Xian stepped into the 5 tribulations of the heavenly Tao, he would definitely not be his match. Teacher, please take pity on me. Don't hurt Yi Xian's life. Such a scene made Tong Tian speak in horror. He hurriedly kowtowed to Tao ancestor Hengjun and begged for mercy, hoping that Tao ancestor Hengjun would not hurt Yi Xian's life. Hengjun, do you really think you can control me? Suddenly, just as everyone thought that Yi Xian would be suppressed by Hengjun, something extremely strange and shocking happened. Yi Xian's face was filled with a cruel smile. Wisps of silver-gray light circulated around his body. His eyes were filled with disdain as he looked at Tao ancestor Hengjun. Even you, Hengjun, can't stop me from killing someone that I, Yi Xian, want to kill. Die. Bang! Yi Xian's palm landed. The 2 Western sages did not even have the chance to scream before they exploded into 2 clouds of blood mist and died. Ha ha ha! Yi Xian looked up to the sky and laughed wildly. Silver-gray light kept circulating around his body, as if it was isolating him from the 3 realms. He was not suppressed by the power of the heavenly Tao at all. You. Dao ancestor Hongjuan's originally gentle expression changed drastically. He was no longer as calm as before. He had never thought that Yi Xian would be able to escape from his suppression and even beat the two Western sages to death in front of him. The power of space-time. You've cultivated the power of space-time? Dao ancestor Hongjuan's eyes were like torches. He stared blankly at the silver-gray light on Yi Xian's body. He was extremely shocked. In the myriad of worlds, space-time is one. So what if you fused with the heavens? So what if you control the heavenly Tao? I have the power of space-time. Let's see how you're going to kill me. Yi Xian laughed wildly. A wisp of space-time power circled around his body, causing Yi Xian's body to become illusory. Dao ancestor Hongjun could not capture the trajectory of Yi Xian's existence at all. Chapter 1020. Space-time was like water, illusory and indeterminate. The wisp of silver-gray light circulated around Yi Xian's body like water ripples, completely isolating him from the three realms and completely unaffected by the power of the heavenly Tao. What was space-time? Space-time was the law of the heavens. Space-time existed in the myriad worlds of the heavens. It was also an eternal power. Although Yi Xian had only grasped a trace of the power of space-time, it was enough for him to protect himself. In the starry sky, Yi Xian was laughing maniacally. So what if Dao ancestor Hongjun was invincible in the three realms? So what if Dao ancestor Hongjun controlled the heavenly Tao? With the power of space-time, he was already in an invincible position. It was simply a fool's dream for Dao ancestor Hongjun to want to kill him. Yi Xian admitted that he was no match for Hongjun, but it was impossible for Hongjun to kill him because he had truly grown up and was no longer the weak person of the past. Yi Xian's maniacal laughter was too ear-piercing, causing Dao ancestor Hongjuan's indifferent face to darken. He looked at Yi Xian with a heavy gaze. He naturally did not take Yi Xian seriously, even if the other party had stepped into the 5 tribulations of the heavenly Tao. To put it arrogantly, even if Yi Xian had stepped into the 6 tribulations of the heavenly Tao, Hongjun would not take Yi Xian seriously and would only think of him as a pawn. Because Hongjun controlled the heavenly Tao, the entire 3 realms was under his control. As long as Yi Xian did not leave the 3 realms, he would definitely be suppressed by him. But it was different now. Yi Xian had actually cultivated the power of space-time. This simply shocked Dao ancestor Hongjun to the extreme, and he finally treated Yi Xian as a real threat. At this moment, Yi Xian's maniacal laughter gradually stopped. He stood proudly in the starry sky, while Dao ancestor Hongjuan's expression was gloomy and he did not speak or move. A stifling atmosphere was growing. This. Looking at Dao ancestor Hongjuan's gloomy expression, Yuanshi Tianzuan and Lao Tzu were stunned on the spot. The two of them never thought that even Dao ancestor Hongjun would not be able to do anything to Yi Xian. Dao ancestor Hongjun gradually calmed down. He took a deep look at Yi Xian with an inexplicable look in his eyes. So you have cultivated the power of time and space. No wonder you dared to do this. Hongjun, I know you want to kill me. Unfortunately, you no longer have the chance. Yi Xian sneered. In order to cultivate the space-time seed, Yi Xian had put in a lot of effort. He had only managed to cultivate a trace of space-time power. He had not only done it for his own cultivation, but also to give himself a chance to save his own life. This was because Yi Xian understood one thing very well. He would have to face Hongjun sooner or later. Even if he stepped into the 6 tribulations of the heavenly Tao, as long as he did not become the saint of all saints, he would still be shackled in the 3 realms. Hongjun was his greatest enemy. Therefore, the power of time and space was the foundation of his survival. All of this was under Yi Xian's control. Do you really think I can't do anything to you? Dao ancestor Hongjun said coldly. The heavenly Tao's thunder rumbled. Strands of the laws of heaven and earth intertwined in the 3 realms. An extremely oppressive atmosphere grew. Come. Rumble. Tao ancestor Hung Jun was too powerful. He could definitely be called invincible in the three realms. With a wave of his robe, the starry sky within hundreds of millions of miles broke open. The entire Mount Buzhou was sucked over by him. Crack. The nine heavens' divine thunder raged. The laws of heaven and earth intertwined. Terrifying chains of order wrapped around the 33rd celestial court, instantly trapping the 33rd celestial court in the starry sky. Celestial Venerable. A worthy younger brother Yi. Damn it. Within the 33rd celestial court, Ziwei Tiandi led the group of immortal and monster kings in a furious roar. The two great formations of heaven and earth rotated, and Ziwei Tiandi erupted with the cultivation of a heavenly Tao saint in an attempt to break free of the chains. Unfortunately, Tao ancestor Hung Jun was too powerful and too invincible. He'd personally sealed off the 33rd celestial court. No matter how much Ziwei Tiandi and the others struggled, it was to no avail. Young Yi Xian, I can't kill you, but your orthodoxy isn't as strong as you. Their lives are in my hands, Tao ancestor Hung Jun said calmly. Are you threatening me? Yi Xian's expression changed slightly. He glared fiercely at Tao ancestor Hung Jun, but there was also a hint of regret in his eyes. He'd overlooked one thing. Although Tao ancestor Hung Jun couldn't do anything to him, the 33rd celestial court didn't have the ability to do so. The heavenly Tao is supreme, and all living things must obey it. I only hope that you can destroy your cultivation of using strength to prove your Tao. I'm even more willing to bestow upon you the title of a heavenly Tao saint. From now on, you'll be the number one saint of the three realms, Tao ancestor Hung Jun said in a low voice. No. Celestial Sovereign, you mustn't. At worst, we'll just die. Celestial Sovereign, don't agree to it. The 33rd celestial court roared angrily. Every one of them looked ashamed and angry, but there was also a deep sense of powerlessness in their eyes. In the face of Tao ancestor Hung Jun, who controlled the heavenly Tao, they were nothing but ants. They had no strength to resist at all, and now they were Yi Xian's burden. Boom! Suddenly, Yi Xian moved. He strangely appeared in front of Lao Tzu and Yuanshi Tianzuan, and his palms landed on their heads. This made the two saints roar in horror, but they were powerless to resist Yi Xian's suppression. To Lao Tzu and Yuanshi Tianzuan, Yi Xian had broken through the barriers of time and space, coupled with an invincible physical body and the cultivation of the 5 tribulations of the heavenly Tao. If you dare to touch the celestial court, I'll beat these two good-for-nothings to death, Yi Xian said coldly. You. Tao ancestor Hung Jun was startled. He didn't expect Yi Xian to threaten him with Lao Tzu and Yuanshi Tianzuan. The heavenly Tao is fair, and everyone has their own fate. If you want to kill the two of them, it's their fate. But if you kill the two of them, this poor Taoist can guarantee that the celestial court will cease to exist, Tao ancestor Hung Jun said calmly. Okay, then this venerable will see if you're willing to let the two of them die. Yi Xian roared, and the Tribulation Transcender's Devour was activated. An extremely terrifying devouring power acted on Lao Tzu and Yuanshi Tianzuan, causing them to howl miserably. Hung Jun, if you want to destroy the celestial court, then I'll use the lives of the two of them to pay off the debt of the celestial court, Yi Xian roared viciously. Yi Xian understood very well that even if Tao ancestor Hung Jun really destroyed the celestial court, he would never agree to the other party's conditions. He would rather betray the world than let the world betray him. This was Yi Xian's principle, and even the 33rd layer of the celestial court was no exception. In terms of viciousness, Yi Xian was unparalleled. In terms of decisiveness, Yi Xian could be said to be unparalleled. Tao ancestor Hung Jun wanted to use the celestial court to threaten him, but this was simply a fool's dream. Moreover, Yi Xian had a faint guess in his heart, a guess about the 3 pure ones and the 12 ancient witches. If his guess was correct, Tao ancestor Hung Jun would never let Lao Tzu and Yuanshi Tianzuan die in his hands. Stop. Sure enough. Tao ancestor Hung Jun was no longer calm. He casually released the celestial court and looked at Yi Xian with a gloomy face. Chapter 1021. I knew that you, Hung Jun, couldn't afford to gamble. Yi Xian pinched Yuanshi Tianzuan and Lao Tzu's heads tightly and laughed wildly. Yi Xian, you win. Let them go, Tao ancestor Hung Jun said in a low voice. Yi Dao Yu, let them go, Tong Tian secretly transmitted his voice. As the saying goes, leave a way out so that we can meet again in the future. Although Yi Xian disdained this sentence and believed more in killing, he could not force Tao ancestor Hung Jun into a corner in today's situation. Otherwise, both sides would suffer. Bang! Yi Xian casually threw the two sages out, which allowed Lao Tzu and Yuanshi Tianzuan to escape death. They quickly came to Tao ancestor Hung Jun's side and looked at Yi Xian with extreme fear in their eyes. At this moment, neither side could do anything to the other. Hung Jun could not kill Yi Xian, and Yi Xian could not kill Hung Jun, because he was no match for Hung Jun at all. Although Yi Xian could kill Yuanshi Tianzuan and Dao Tianzuan crazily, this would also anger Tao ancestor Hung Jun. The celestial court would definitely be destroyed by Hung Jun, which would not benefit Yi Xian at all. Yi Xian never did things that did not benefit him. Moreover, he had promised Tong Tian to let Yuanshi Tianzuan and Lao Tzu go. He could not break his promise to Tong Tian. Yi Xian, this humble Taoist is indeed unable to kill you, but don't go too far. How about we make a pact today? Tao ancestor Hung Jun was silent for 3 breaths of time before he slowly spoke. 3 rules. Yi Xian frowned. First, hand over the Hong Meng immortal qi that Kundi received. Secondly, from today onwards, you are not allowed to participate in the strife of the 3 realms. The so-called saints are also not allowed to casually kill you. Thirdly, I want the cultivation technique of your space-time power. I will use the creation jade disc to exchange with you. Of course, if you're able to agree to these 3 conditions, then I can stop manifesting in the world, and you'll be the ruler of the entire 3 dimensions. Otherwise, even if the world collapses today, I will definitely suppress you here even if I don't care about the lives of these 2 disciples, Tao ancestor Hung Jun said coldly. Do you think I'm a 3-year-old child? Yi Xian sneered as he looked at Tao ancestor Hung Jun. Yi Xian, although you control the power of time and space and this humble Taoist is indeed unable to do anything to you, don't forget that this humble Taoist controls the heavenly Tao. The operation of time and space in the 3 realms is also within this humble Taoist's control. Yi Xian frowned slightly as a heavy expression flashed across his eyes. He seemed to have thought of something at that moment. Although I don't know the power of space-time, the order of the 3 realms is controlled by me. If I reverse the order of space-time in the 3 realms, I might be able to kill you, said Tao ancestor Hung Jun. Unfortunately, if you reverse the order of space-time in the 3 realms, the entire 3 realms will turn into a vacuum. The mountains, rivers, and all living beings will no longer exist. You can't afford to pay that price, said Yi Xian with a sneer. Yi Xian knew that Hung Jun was not lying. Hung Jun controlled the heavenly Tao. If he reversed the order of the 3 realms, he could indeed kill him here. However, the price was that all living beings would be destroyed and the world would no longer exist. It was a lose-lose outcome. I really can't afford it, but you can't either, little friend Yi. That's why I want to make 3 rules with you, said Tao ancestor Hung Jun in a low voice. Alright, I can agree to it, but these 3 conditions need to be changed, said Yi Xian gloomily after pondering for a while. How do you want to change it? First, I can only give you one of the primordial violet vapor from Zhuan Ti. I want to keep the remaining one. Second, I can choose not to participate in the dispute of the 3 realms. I can choose not to kill the so-called heavenly Tao saints. However, If anyone provokes me, don't blame me for not abiding by the agreement between us. I will definitely kill them. As for the third condition, it's impossible for you to want my technique to cultivate the power of spacetime. Yi Xian said coldly. This was his bottom line. Yi Xian had to keep one of the 2 strands of primordial violet vapor. It was impossible for him to return all of them to Hong Jun. As for the so-called dispute of the 3 realms, Yi Xian disdained to get involved with it at his current cultivation level. The only heavenly Tao saints left were Lao Tzu and Yuanshi. He could temporarily spare their lives. As for the last condition, it involved the power of spacetime. This was Yi Xian's way of survival. Even if he had to risk his life, he would never agree to Hong Jun's request. At this moment, Tao ancestor Hong Jun was deep in thought. Killing intent flashed in his eyes from time to time, but he calmed down in the end. This was because he had weighed the pros and cons and knew that this was Yi Xian's bottom line. Alright, then I'll settle it with little friend Yi. Here's the primordial violet vapor. Yi Xian directly shot out a strand of primordial violet vapor that was caught by Tao ancestor Hong Jun. He took a deep look at Yi Xian before suddenly turning around and leaving. Wait. Before Tao ancestor Hong Jun could leave, Yi Xian suddenly stopped him. Hong Jun, I know that you want to think about how to crack my spacetime power and even want to kill me in your hands. However, I want to tell you that when I step into the 6 tribulations of the heavenly Tao, I will definitely ascend to the Purple Cloud Palace to seek guidance from you, Yi Xian said with his hands behind his back. Alright, I'll wait for you. Tao ancestor Hong Jun's expression changed. Then, he turned into a wisp of green smoke and dissipated. However, before he left, he accepted Yi Xian's challenge. To put it bluntly, the so-called 3-point agreement today was just a way for the 2 of them to stabilize each other. The hidden killing intent had already been born in their hearts, and it was only a matter of who had the means to restrain the other first. If Yi Xian stepped into the 6 tribulations of the heavenly Tao, he would definitely step into the Purple Cloud Palace and destroy Hong Jun. If Tao ancestor Hong Jun could find a way to crack the spacetime power, he would also kill Yi Xian immediately. That would depend on who was better. As Tao ancestor Hong Jun left, Yuanshi Tianzuan and Lao Tzu took a deep look at Yi Xian before floating away without saying a word. They thought that after this battle, the 2 heavenly Tao saints would enter seclusion and not dare to be enemies with Yi Xian. Yi Dao Yu, Tong Tian is ashamed. Tong Tian cupped his hands and bowed. Although he had taken revenge for the humiliation of the past today, he had also made Yi Xian and Tao ancestor Hong Jun go against each other. If Yi Xian died at the hands of Tao ancestor Hong Jun in the future, Tong Tian would feel extremely guilty. Fellow Taoist Tong Tian, there's no need to do this. This is what I, Yi Xian, owe you. I should return it. Yi Xian smiled slightly, but there was a heavy look in his eyes. Time. Yi Xian needed time. Tao ancestor Hong Jun's appearance today gave him a lot of pressure. Although he had temporarily stabilized Tao ancestor Hong Jun, he would definitely face a life-and-death calamity if the other party found a way to crack his spacetime power. Therefore, Yi Xian had to step into the 6 tribulations of the heavenly Tao as soon as possible because only the 6 tribulations of the heavenly Tao could give him strength comparable to Tao ancestor Hong Jun. Each of the 9 tribulations of the heavenly Tao was fatal. The 3rd, 6th, and 9th tribulations were the 3 major dividing lines. If Yi Xian could pass through the 6 tribulations of the heavenly Tao, his cultivation would undergo earth-shattering changes. Yi Xian had a great sense of urgency in his heart because he was not the only one working hard to advance towards the 6 tribulations of the heavenly Tao. Demon ancestor Luo Ho was also secretly cultivating. One had to know that the boundless secular world technique was not inferior to his immortal scripture. Besides Tao ancestor Hong Jun, Luo Ho was also his greatest enemy. Chapter 1022. Mount Buzhou, the 33rd Celestial Court. Tens of thousands of immortals had gathered, and the three realms were all watching. The battle between Yi Xian and Tang Tian had shocked the three realms, and gave all living beings a clear understanding of Yi Xian. The two sages of the West had perished, and Yuanshi Tianzuan and Lao Tzu had fled in defeat. Even Tao ancestor Hung Jun, who had merged with the heavens, couldn't do anything to Yi Xian. When news of this spread throughout the three realms, Yi Xian was already invincible, and was revered by all living beings in the three realms. The 33rd Celestial Court also rose in stature. It was also because of this opportunity that the Feast of Peaches was held in the 33rd layer of heaven. All of a sudden, tens of thousands of immortals and demons came to visit. All the famous almighty beings came to participate in the Feast of Peaches. In the Jade Pool, there were piles of quasi-saints and grand heavenly immortals. Ziwei Tiandi sat in the center, while Yi Xian and Tang Tian sat cross-legged above the clouds. The grand Feast of Peaches lasted for 3 whole years. Fellow Taoist Jin Yuan, fellow Taoist Landia, let me toast to you too. Above the heavy clouds, Yi Xian held a wine cup in his hand and saluted Zhen Yuanzi from afar. This also caused Zhen Yuanzi and Luya, who were in the middle of the immortal peach feast, to quickly stand up and drink the immortal wine in their cups. However, Yi Xian's action attracted the attention of all immortals, and they looked at Jin Yuanzi and Landia with envy. One had to know that ever since the Feast of Peaches began, Yi Xian and Tang Tian had never taken the initiative to toast others. However, for Jin Yuanzi and Landia to receive such an honor, it meant that Yi Xian valued them greatly. Unfortunately, no one saw the heavy look in the eyes of Jin Yuanzi and Landia. There was no joy on their faces. Instead, there was a trace of hidden worry. The Feast of Peaches lasted for 3 years before it finally came to an end. Jin Yuanzi and Landia left in a hurry. Tang Tian also took his leave and returned to the Aquamarine Palace. The 33rd Celestial Court also quieted down. Within the Celestial Sovereign Palace, Yi Xian sat cross-legged in the void as wisps of chaotic fog revolved around his body. Below him were Fatso Huang and Gu Beichen. These two were also Yi Xian's trusted aides. The two of you have been with me for more than 200,000 years. Beichen is already in the realm of sage-to-be, and Fatso Huang, you have also been in the Daluo Jingxian for many years, Yi Xian said slowly. Sir, your subordinate's aptitude is lacking. It was only because of your care that I was able to cultivate to the Daluo Jingxian. Naturally, I cannot be compared to this brat, Gu Beichen. Fatso Huang laughed. Fatso Huang, sir is talking about serious matters. Don't be so cheeky. Gu Beichen scolded jokingly. Brat, don't be so proud just because you have become a sage-to-be. Weren't you still a brat in front of Grandpa Huang back then? Fatso Huang retorted. You're becoming more and more unruly. Gu Beichen smiled bitterly and shook his head. So many years had passed, but Fatso Huang had not changed at all. Gu Beichen sighed as he recalled his experience in the human world. You have been with me for many years, but I have not given you much. Yi Xian sighed. Sir, please don't say that. Without you, we would not have been able to achieve immortality. I'm afraid we would have died of old age in the mortal world. Gu Beichen hurriedly said. Sir, it was you who saved me from the warden. Otherwise, I, Fatso Huang, would have died many years ago. I am already satisfied to be able to become a Daluo Jingxian today, Fatso Huang said solemnly. Buzz! A wisp of Hongmeng immortal vapor appeared in Yi Xian's hand. He looked at Fatso Huang and Gu Beichen and said, Now, I have a wisp of Hongmeng immortal vapor in my hand. It can allow one of you to become a sage-to-be. When Yi Xian took out the Hongmeng immortal vapor, Fatso Huang and Gu Beichen knew what Yi Xian was thinking. This made their expressions extremely complicated. Sir, I don't want this chance to become a sage-to-be. Just give it to Fatso Huang. Beichen can achieve Dao in another way. Gu Beichen bowed. Nonsense. Why would I want to be a heavenly sage? Lao Tzu only wants to be by your side. Fatso Huang rejected bluntly. He then bowed to Yi Xian and said, Sir, Gu Beichen is already a sage to be. It is best to give him the Hong Meng immortal vapor. If he can become a sage to be, he can help you with some trivial matters. No, you must become a sage to be. Gu Beichen said coldly. Are you rebelling? You don't even listen to me now. Back in the human realm, I was half your teacher. Fatso Huang said angrily. The two of you don't have to argue anymore. Wait for me to finish speaking. Then you two can decide for yourselves. Yi Xian said in a low voice, the so-called heavenly sage is just a fake sage. They are not real sages. However, heavenly sages rely on the heavenly Tao to be born. With the support of the heavenly Tao, they surpass sage to be and are immortal. But there is one thing you must understand. If you become a heavenly sage, you will also be shackled by the heavenly Tao. From then on, you can only stay in the three realms. As Yi Xian spoke, Fatso Huang and Gu Beichen's expressions turned heavy. They could already understand the meaning behind Yi Xian's words. I can feel that my cultivation is increasing day by day. When I step into the 6 tribulations of the heavenly Tao, I will definitely have to face Hung Jun. If I can pass through the 9 tribulations of the heavenly Tao, I may have to leave this world. So I will also give the two of you a choice. If I can become the sage of all sages, one of you will have to follow me and leave the 3 realms. The remaining one will become a heavenly sage. This is also my suggestion to the two of you. Yi Xian said in a low voice. There is no need to choose. I will not become a heavenly sage. Fatso Huang only wants to follow by your side. I will go wherever you go. Fatso Huang said firmly. Beichen too. Gu Beichen bowed. All right. Yi Xian nodded slowly and kept the Hong Meng immortal vapor. He was right about the two of them. This so-called heavenly sage could not sway their minds. Yi Xian could feel that ever since he gained control of the power of spacetime, his cultivation was increasing at a terrifying rate every day. In less than 10,000 years, he would face the 6 tribulations of the heavenly Tao. Yi Xian had a premonition that when the 6 tribulations of the heavenly Tao arrived, he would face the greatest life and death crisis in history. This feeling was extremely strong, and it pressed down on him to the point that he couldn't breathe. A person's intuition was very accurate, especially at Yi Xian's level. To be able to make him feel the invasion of death, the 6 tribulations of the heavenly Tao would be extremely terrifying. Time flowed like water. In the blink of an eye, another 10,000 years had passed. Outside the 33 heavens, a ragged young man was walking through the starry sky. A black chain was binding him tightly. Behind him were large stars, and this ragged young man was actually dragging these large stars with great difficulty. The mortal battle body is invulnerable. If you want to take revenge on Yi Xian, you have to defeat his disciple first. That Lin Feiyun far surpasses you in terms of cultivation talent and scheming. If you can't cultivate the mortal battle body, don't talk about taking revenge on Yi Xian. You will also die at the hands of Lin Feiyun. Chapter 1023. Luo Ho, the demon ancestor, sat cross-legged in the starry sky. His voice kept echoing in Li Yoyun's ears, and he would occasionally strike Li Yoyun with heavenly devil lightning. Don't worry, master. Yoyun will definitely cultivate the mortal battle physique, and I will never disgrace you. Li Yoyun was in a sorry state. Rays of great overarching golden light erupted from his body. After 10,000 years, he had actually stepped into the 9th heavenly layer of great overarching heaven. This cultivation speed was simply astonishing. I want to tell you that the battle between you and Lin Feiyun will take place 10,000 years later. If you die in the hands of Lin Feiyun, I will definitely kill your children. You can't lose this battle, whether it's for yourself or your children. Luo Ho said coldly. I won't lose. I will definitely kill Lin Feiyun and Yi Xian. Li Yuyun roared with hatred, causing the surrounding starry sky to rumble and shake. Alright, I will use the 9 heavens weak water to wash your body. If you can withstand the washing of the 9 heavens weak water, you will definitely be able to condense the mortal battle physique. Rumble. The 9 heavens weak water whistled through the starry sky and instantly submerged Li Yuyun. The terrifying black corrosive force constantly eroded every inch of his flesh and blood, causing Li Yuyun to roar painfully in the 9 heavens weak water. 10,000 years, there are still 10,000 years. Luo Ho looked at Li Yuyun who was suffering and whispered, Yi Xian, the game between you and me will truly begin in 10,000 years. Don't let me down. At the same time. Yama Underworld, 18 layers of hell. Ah! Waves of mournful howls were heard. Lin Feiyun was howling miserably in the surging magma. His flesh and blood were eroded by the magma, and the surface of his body was cracking like a spider web. Lin Feiyun, you still have 10,000 years. You haven't even stepped into the quasi-saint realm. You're really a piece of trash. Above the lava, Gu Beichen and Fatso Huang stood side by side. Gu Beichen held a long black whip in his hand. Bolts of lightning flashed on the whip as Gu Beichen brandished it, lashing it towards Lin Feiyun. Ah! This was the deity striking whip, a whip that specialized in striking immortals and immortals. Every strike of the whip inflicted enormous damage to Lin Feiyun. Of course, Gu Beichen and Fatso Huang would not let Lin Feiyun die. The two of them even had the golden core peach of immortality that Yi Xian had given them. It was enough to heal Lin Feiyun's injuries. The 18 levels of hell. Lin Feiyun had been brought to the 18 levels of hell to cultivate for 10,000 years. During these 10,000 years, he had been living a life worse than death. Other than cultivating, he had been cultivating crazily. This was because 10,000 years later, it would be the day of his battle with Li Yuyun. Therefore, he told himself that he could not lose. According to Mr.'s orders, after tomorrow, the two of us will bring you into the 6 paths of reincarnation. You will have to spend the remaining 10,000 years in the 6 paths of reincarnation. If you can't persevere, then you will die in the 6 paths of reincarnation. Gu Beichen said coldly. Brothers, don't worry. Feiyun will not disappoint Master's expectations. I will definitely step into the quasi-saint realm. Lin Feiyun roared in the sea of lava. Remember, you can't lose this battle 10,000 years later. If you lose, your soul will disperse and you will never be reincarnated. Fatso Huang said coldly. Feiyun will remember this. I will definitely kill Li Yuyun. I will definitely not lose to him. Lin Feiyun roared again and again. The undying immortal scripture was circulating violently. Time was like water. It passed in the blink of an eye. 10,000 years passed in a hurry. Another 10,000 years passed. The 3 realms were peaceful. However, in the heavenly worthy palace of the 33 levels of heaven, Yi Xian slowly opened his eyes. Rumble. Yi Xian's eyes were like the blue dome of the ancient sky. His eyes shone through the 3 realms. Strands of space-time energy coiled around his body. He slowly stood up from his cross-legged position. The door of the heavenly worthy palace rumbled open. Yi Xian slowly walked out of the heavenly worthy palace. Heaven and earth were silent. 10,000 laws were silent. When Yi Xian walked out of the Empyrean palace, stars flickered above his head. Rivers of stars surged through the starry sky, and divine lightning rumbled one after another. Luo Ho, 30,000 years have passed. I'll wait for you in the heavenly court. The 3 realms shook and all living beings trembled as Yi Xian's voice echoed throughout the 3 realms. The monarchs of the 33 layers of celestial courts looked at each other in astonishment. Even Crepe Myrtle was taken aback. In the 9th heaven, Luo Ho was dressed in black. His hands were behind his back while Li Yuyun bowed next to him. After 30,000 years of tempering, Li Yuyun finally stepped into the quasi-saint realm and cultivated the secular battle physique. Disciple, this battle is up to you. Luo Ho said indifferently. Don't worry, master. I will definitely kill Lin Feiyun and not let you down. Li Yuyun bowed towards Luo Ho. Very well, let's go. Luo Ho smiled. A black cloud rose beneath his feet and he took Li Yuyun towards the celestial court. In front of the celestial worthy palace, Yi Xian sat cross-legged in the air, his entire body flickering in and out of existence. The world around him was faintly distorting, and after 20,000 years, he became more and more unfathomable. His cultivation was at the peak of the 5 tribulations of the heavenly Tao, and he was only a step away from the 6 tribulations of the heavenly Tao. Master! Whoosh whoosh 3 streamers shot over from the distant horizon. As the 3 streamers dissipated, Fatso Huang and the other 2 appeared. Lin Feiyun even bowed towards Yi Xian. Not bad. You stepped into the quasi-saint realm in 30,000 years. You didn't let me down. Yi Xian glanced at Lin Feiyun indifferently. Without master's painstaking cultivation, Lin Feiyun wouldn't be here today. I will definitely kill Li Yuyun in this battle. I won't let master down. Lin Feiyun said gloomily. Lin Feiyun, aren't you afraid that the wind will cut your tongue? Today, I want to see who will kill who. Rumble. Dark clouds that blotted out the sky and covered the earth spread over. Within the dark clouds, Luo Ho was slowly walking towards Yi Xian with Li Yuyun. The person who spoke was Li Yuyun. Yi Daoyu, we haven't seen each other for many years. I've missed you very much. Luo Ho strolled towards Yi Xian. Li Yuyun looked at Yi Xian with extremely red eyes. The intense hatred in his eyes was almost tangible. Unfortunately, Yi Xian turned a blind eye to Li Yuyun's angry glare. He looked at Luo Ho indifferently and said, Daoist Luo Ho is really powerful. You actually passed through the 5 tribulations of the secular world. It seems that apart from Hung Jun, only you are worthy of being my opponent in the 3 realms. That's what I wanted to say as well. Luo Ho smiled. Then, he looked at Lin Feiyun and said, however, today is not a battle between you and me. It's a battle between the 2 of them. How about we just be spectators? That's exactly what I was thinking. Yi Xian nodded indifferently. Rumble. The 33 layers of the celestial court shook. Yi Xian summoned the heavenly cycle star array. This part of the world turned into a starry sky. The resplendent stars constantly shone. This heavenly cycle star array will be the battlefield of the 2 of you. Only one of you can walk out alive. Yi Xian said calmly. Li Yuyun, get your ass in here and die. Lin Feiyun smiled malevolently. He took a step forward and entered the heavenly cycle star array. Lin Feiyun, today, I want your soul to scatter and die. Li Yuyun entered the heavenly cycle star array. The 2 of them faced each other in the array. Terrifying auras rose from their bodies. A great battle was about to begin. Chapter 1024. The heavenly cycle of stars sealed the sky and the earth. Li Yuyun and Lin Feiyun's momentum was rising steadily, and their killing intent was pouring out. This was the collision between the immortal scripture and the boundless mortal world technique. Which of these 2 supreme techniques was superior would be revealed by Li Yuyun and Lin Feiyun. Great Devil Fist. Mortal Finger. Rumble. The immortal demon light shook the sky and the earth, and the mortal world chi soared into the sky. The 2 of them roared and attacked each other. As the saying goes, when enemies meet, their eyes turn red. Today, in this heavenly cycle of stars formation, only one of them could survive. Clang! Lin Feiyun punched Li Yuyun's chest, and Li Yuyun pointed his finger at Lin Feiyun. With a deafening roar, the 2 of them flew toward each other. Li Yuyun, you're just a so-so. Lin Feiyun stood proudly in the void, and wisps of immortal demon light surrounded him. Obviously, he was not injured by Li Yoyun's attack. After all, he had condensed the immortal demon body, and his physical strength was comparable to that of an ancestral wizard. Similarly, Li Yuyun had cultivated the mortal world body, so he was not affected by Lin Feiyun's punch. However, their eyes were a little red, and the killing intent in their eyes was overflowing. Lin Feiyun, you're just a dog under Yi Xian's feet. Today, I'll take your dog life, Li Yuyun said coldly. In the face of Li Yuyun's sarcasm, Lin Feiyun laughed ferociously and said, if I'm a dog, then what are you? Aren't you also a dog under Luo Ho's feet? You and I are the same. Go to hell. You're the one who's going to die. The murderous intent of the two soared, and they once again clashed. This time, neither of them held back. They were fighting in a suicidal manner, and wanted to kill each other. Rumble. The two of them fought fiercely in the heavenly cycle of stars formation, and all kinds of secret techniques emerged one after another, causing the formation of heaven and earth to rumble and shake. This also proved that their power was extremely terrifying. Above the 9 layers of clouds, Yi Xian and Luo Ho were sitting cross-legged on the clouds. Whether it was Yi or Luo Ho, both looked calm, and they were not moved by the battle between their two disciples. Fellow Taoist Yi, who do you think will win this battle? Luo Hu asked indifferently. Victory or defeat isn't important. What's important is that you dared to bring Li Yuyun here. You've indeed made me look at you in a new light. Ha! Luo Ho smiled, but his smile was very confident as he said, I naturally have to accept fellow Taoist Ye's challenge. Then let's see who will emerge victorious. Well, I also want to see who is better. Yi Xian smiled mysteriously. The conversation between the two of them was foggy, and no one could understand the meaning behind it. They did not pay as much attention to the battle between the two disciples as expected, which was thought-provoking. Time passed bit by bit and the two cultivators within the cosmic star array continued to fight to the death. This intense battle lasted for an entire year, causing the two of them to be covered in blood and their auras began to weaken. Their great techniques collided, and their bodies fought. Almost all the killing means were displayed by the two of them. Both of them were seriously injured, and it was impossible to determine the winner. They were both in the Sage-to-Be realm, and they both cultivated the immortal scripture and the boundless mortal world technique. Neither of them could kill the other, and if they continued to fight, it would only end with both of them suffering. Boom! Mountains and rivers were destroyed, and the void collapsed. Li Yuyun and Lin Feiyun both penetrated each other's chests, and fresh blood spilled in the sky. The two of them were also sent flying out of the heavenly cycle of stars formation. Both of them suffered. It was indeed the result of both of them suffering. Li Yuyun, I'll take your dog life. Suddenly, Lin Feiyun stood up shakily, covered in blood. Li Yuyun also stood up with difficulty, vomiting blood. He walked toward Lin Feiyun with a murderous look. Go to hell. You're the one who's going to die. The two of them each struck a palm at the other, as if this attack would determine who would die in the other's hands. It was also at this moment that Yi Xian and Luo Ho's eyes flickered, because they were about to witness the result. Buzz! The immortal demon light Tong Tian penetrated the ground, and the mortal world chi spread out, completely covering Li Yuyun and Lin Feiyun. Boundless mortal world. The immortal Tong Tian. Rumble. The world was shaking, and everything was trembling. The immortal demon light and the mortal world chi were completely intertwined, and Li Yuyun and Lin Feiyun's figures were intertwined. The mortal world chi and the immortal world chi were completely connected. There was no longer the posture of wanting to kill each other. Ha ha ha. Lin Feiyun laughed wildly, and Li Yuyun looked coldly at Luo Ho and Yi Xian, showing a look of hatred for a common enemy. Yi Xian, Luo Ho, you two didn't expect this, did you? Lin Feiyun's body was flickering in and out of existence. Strands of mortal chi and immortal demon light were revolving around his body, giving people a feeling that he was untraceable. He was facing the sky and laughing wildly, extremely complacent. Yi Xian, I once told you that I will take control of my own destiny. I, Li Yuyun, will never be your chess piece. Li Yuyun coldly roared. 2 laws in 1. Yi Xian and Luo Ho were sitting cross-legged on top of the 9 layers of clouds. When they saw Li Yuyun and Lin Feiyun surrounded by the immortal demon light and mortal world chi, they said these words at the same time. Yes, 2 laws in 1. This is where you failed. Lin Feiyun was proud, looking at Yi Xian and Luo Ho with a fierce look in his eyes. The scene reversed, and time rewound. In the heavenly cycle star array, Lin Feiyun and Li Yuyun were madly attacking each other, but the two of them were also secretly communicating with each other through sound transmission. Li Yuyun, you and I are just chess pieces of Luo Ho and Yi Xian. The grudge between you and me is only because of Yi Xian. Do you really want to be a chess piece for them to manipulate forever? Lin Feiyun said. I naturally don't want to be someone else's chess piece, but so what? You and I can't resist at all. Li Yuyun coldly transmitted his voice and continued to madly attack Lin Feiyun. Li Yuyun, the immortal scripture that Yi Xian gave me is incomplete, but Yi Xian didn't expect that I would comprehend the forbidden chapter of the immortal scripture on my own and obtain a heaven-defying secret technique from it. As long as you are willing to join hands with me, you and I can get rid of Yi Xian and Luo Ho's control. In the future, even if we kill the two of them, it won't be impossible, Lin Feiyun said. What secret technique? Li Yuyun's mind moved. The Calamity Immortal Technique. Lin Feiyun said word by word, then continued, this secret technique can devour the cultivation of others. As long as you and I devour each other's cultivation, we can combine the immortal scripture and the boundless mortal world technique into one. When the 2 supreme techniques are combined, you and I can tear space and escape from the celestial court. Chapter 1025. Moreover, with the 2 supreme cultivation methods, you and I will surpass Yi Xian and Luo Ho sooner or later. At that time, the 3 realms will be ours. Lin Feiyun excitedly transmitted his voice. Why should I believe you? Li Yuyun was very tempted, but he still cautiously transmitted his voice. You can only choose to believe me. Otherwise, only one of us will survive today. The other will become their puppet, Lin Feiyun said in a powerful and resonating voice. And don't forget, the grudges between you and me are all controlled by Yi Xian. You and I don't have any grudges. As long as you and I work together, we will definitely be able to escape from their control. In the future, we will definitely be able to take revenge on Yi Xian, Lin Feiyun said sincerely. Okay, I'll believe you this time. Li Yuyun finally made a decision because he didn't want to become Yi Xian's chess piece. He wanted to control his own fate. For a year, the two seemed to be fighting with no regard for their lives. In fact, Lin Feiyun had passed the Calamity Transcender technique to Li Yuyun. This also allowed Li Yuyun to secretly cultivate it in order to combine the 2 supreme cultivation methods and escape from the control of Yi Xian and Luo Ho. The scene changed back to reality. Lin Feiyun and Li Yuyun stood side by side. Both of them had a mocking expression on their faces. The immortal demon light and the mortal chi intertwined and constantly surrounded the two of them. When the immortal scripture and the boundless mortal world technique combined into one, the power produced was simply earth-shattering. It even caused the space in front of Li Yuyun and Lin Feiyun to crack. Yi Xian, my good master, disciple forgot to tell you that I have completely mastered the forbidden chapter of the immortal scripture. Now, I have also combined the boundless mortal world technique. In the future, I will definitely repay master's kindness of nurturing me. Ha! Lin Feiyun was laughing wildly. He was extremely excited. Yi Xian, Luo Ho, it won't be long before I, Li Yuyun, will definitely not let you off. Li Yuyun growled coldly. Let's go. Rumble. Heaven and earth reversed and space cracked open. The two of them devoured each other's cultivation and combined the two supreme techniques into one. They had already surpassed the so-called half-saint. Even if they weren't saints, they weren't far from it. At this moment, the two teamed up to tear the space apart in order to escape from the celestial court. When their cultivation reached the Desheng level in the future, they would look for Yi Xian and Luo Ho to settle all their grievances. Yi Xian, Luo Ho, let's meet again in the future. Lin Feiyun and Li Yuyun stepped into the space crack together, and instantly disappeared from Yi Xian and Luo Ho's eyes. Above the 9 layers of clouds, Yi Xian watched the two leave indifferently. Luo Ho's eyes were calm, without the slightest anger. There was only a touch of contempt in his eyes. Yi Daoyu, you and I have achieved our goal, Luo Ho said indifferently. Chess pieces are chess pieces in the end. They can never escape the fate of being chess pieces. Yi Xian said calmly. The 6 disasters of the mortal world and the 6 tribulations of the heavenly way. You and I have to go through the tribulations together. Only Yi Daoyu can think of this. Luo Ho sighed. There are 50 great Daos and 49 heavenly ways. Li Yuyun and Lin Feiyun are the ones who escaped. Only the two of them combined the immortal scripture and the boundless secular world to produce a little power of the origin of chaos. Only then can they complete our Dharma and Tao, and help us step into the 6 tribulations of the heavenly way and the 6 disasters of the mortal world. Yi Xian said with a slight smile. Yi Daoyu is unpredictable. I, Luo Ho, admire you, Luo Ho said with slight sarcasm. Likewise. If you don't cooperate, how can I succeed? Yi Xian retorted sarcastically. Ha ha ha. Yi Xian and Luo Ho looked at each other and laughed loudly. Yi Daoyu, please. Luo Ho got up from the clouds and made a gesture of invitation to Yi Xian. Yi Xian did not stand on ceremony. He took a step and disappeared from the 33rd heaven. Luo Ho also turned into a wisp of black smoke and disappeared without a trace. Everything was under the control of Yi Xian and Luo Ho. It could only be said that Lin Feiyun and Li Yuyun were too young. How could their crooked thoughts escape the eyes of the 2 old foxes, Yi Xian and Luo Ho? The demon ancestor Luo Ho was known as the Chaos Demon God. He had lived since the beginning of the world until now. Even when facing Hung Jun in the past, he could escape with his life. There was no need to mention Yi Xian. He'd started cultivating the undying immortal scripture at the age of 14, and had endured for many years under the guidance of the origin spirit. Step by step, he'd spent more than 200,000 years to reach this point. Li Yuyun and Lin Feiyun had only cultivated for 30,000 years. Although these 30,000 years allowed them to step into the sage-to-be realm, this cultivation speed could be said to be unprecedented. Compared to Yi Xian and Luo Ho, their scheming and shrewdness were simply like children. They were all calculated by Luo Ho and Yi Xian. Yi Xian cultivated step by step until today. To a large extent, it was related to his bumpy experience. He had seen all kinds of scheming people along the way. It was simply a pipe dream for Lin Feiyun and Li Yuyun to escape his control. Outside the 33rd heaven. Buzz. Ripples appeared in the starry sky. Lin Feiyun and Li Yuyun appeared on a withered star. The two looked at the boundless starry sky with excitement on their faces. Brother Yuyun, the 33rd heaven is boundless. Even if Yi Xian and Luo Ho have the cultivation of a Tong Tian, they can forget about finding us. Lin Feiyun smiled proudly. Brother Feiyun, the grudges between us in the past are written off. I hope that we can advance and retreat together. When our cultivation reaches the great success stage, we can kill Yi Xian and Luo Ho. Li Yuyun said coldly. Brother Yuyun, don't worry. Right now, you and I have grasped 2 supreme cultivation techniques. This is the foundation of our rise. In the future, we will definitely be able to kill off those two bastards. Lin Feiyun said confidently. Speaking of which, it is all thanks to Yi Xian. Otherwise, we would still be mortals. We would have died of old age in the mortal world. How could we have reached our current level of cultivation? Li Yuyun said with a faint smile. Unfortunately, Yi Xian and Luo Ho were too confident. That was their biggest failure. Otherwise, they would not have given us this opportunity to escape into outer space, Lin Feiyun said. My good disciple, Master has not misjudged you. Suddenly, a gentle voice rang out. It was also this voice that caused Lin Feiyun and Li Yoyun's faces to change drastically. They turned towards the source of the voice in shock. Buzz! The world changed and the universe shifted. Yi Xian and Luo Ho's figures became erratic. They were strolling through the starry sky towards the two of them. In the blink of an eye, they appeared before the two of them. How is this possible? Lin Feiyun roared in shock. He staggered backwards. He could not believe his eyes. How did you find us? Li Yoyun's face was also pale. He looked at Yi Xian and Luo Ho in shock. Alas, both of your cultivations were bestowed upon you by me and fellow Daoist Yi, so how could we possibly not be able to find you? Luo Ho let out a long sigh. Chapter 1026. Impossible. Absolutely impossible. Combining two techniques to deceive the heavenly mysteries. I've already deduced it long ago. It's absolutely impossible. Lin Feiyun couldn't speak clearly. He had completely fallen into extreme panic. Looking at Lin Feiyun's flustered expression, Yi Xian lightly shook his head and said, My good disciple, I've actually always admired you because you're very similar to me to a large extent. Unfortunately, you were too eager for instant success. You wanted to escape from my control before your wings were fully developed. This is where you failed the most. Sigh. Luo Ho let out a sigh and interjected at the right time, You two silly brats, fellow Daoist Yi and I are proficient in the immortal scripture and the boundless secular world technique, so how could we not know how to combine the two techniques into one? But have you two ever seen us cultivate each other's techniques? All techniques return to one, and different paths lead to the same destination. The so-called supreme technique is only a primer. It's about mastery, not quantity. If you don't even cultivate one of the supreme techniques to perfection and instead cultivate another one, you'll only multitask and your cultivation will become impure. In the end, you'll only harm yourself. Listening to Yi Xian and Luo Ho constantly talking about their shortcomings, Li Yuyun and Lin Feiyun's faces were deathly pale. Drops of cold sweat continuously flowed from their foreheads. But the two of you did well. Lin Feiyun, I didn't misjudge you. The two of you devoured each other's cultivation and gave birth to a bit of the origin of primal chaos. It's just enough to help me and fellow Luo Ho's cultivation to a higher level. Yi Xian smiled and nodded. You've been scheming all this time. You've already schemed against the two of us. Lin Feiyun trembled and roared. His face was already swollen and extremely humiliated. Yi Xian let out a long sigh and said, You think too highly of the two of you. From the beginning to the end, I've never schemed against the two of you because you're just my chess pieces. As chess pieces, you're naturally under my control. How can you say that I schemed against you? Yi Xian, I'll kill you. Rumble. Li Yuyun was furious. His face was filled with hatred for Yi Xian. He suddenly charged toward Yi Xian. Unfortunately, even if Li Yuyun became a heavenly sage, he would be vulnerable in front of Yi Xian, not to mention that he was only a sage to be. Bang! With a flick of Yi Xian's finger, the starry sky collapsed and Li Yuyun was blasted flying. She spat out a large amount of blood, and her so-called mortal battle body was even more tattered. Plop! Suddenly, Lin Feiyun knelt on the ground and kowtowed to Yi Xian. He cried, Master, please spare my life. Master, please spare my life. All of this was Li Yoyun's doing. This disciple has never thought of betraying you. Thump, thump, thump. Yi Xian strolled toward Lin Feiyun. When he arrived in front of Lin Feiyun, he looked at him with pity. It doesn't matter whether you betrayed me or not. What matters is that the two of you are just chess pieces. In the end, you'll only end up helping me and fellow Taoist Luo Ho. Yi Xian sighed softly. Yi Xian, even if I, Li Yuyun, die here, I won't let you go even as a ghost. Li Yuyun was fixed in the void. He roared at Yi Xian viciously. Disciple, don't quarrel. You won't even have the chance to become a ghost. Luo Ho shook his head and sighed. Go to hell. Lin Feiyun suddenly raised his head. A black light suddenly shot toward Yi Xian. Obviously, Lin Feiyun wanted him to sit and wait for his death. This was definitely not Lin Feiyun's temperament. Buzz! Lin Feiyun's sneak attack turned into ashes. A chain of dark fog wrapped around him and fixed him in place. He couldn't even move a finger. No. I don't want to die. I just stepped into the quasi-sage realm. I don't want to die. I haven't achieved the sage great Tao. How can I die? Lin Feiyun roared viciously. He couldn't accept this result. Unfortunately, no matter how much Lin Feiyun and Li Yuyun roared, Yi Xian and Luo Ho didn't react at all. Fellow Taoist Luo Ho, please. Yi Xian smiled and gestured to Luo Ho. Obviously, this was the time for the two to enjoy the fruits of their labor. Yi Daoyu, please. Luo Ho also smiled and strolled toward Lin Feiyun. What are you doing? What are you doing? Seeing Yi Xian walk toward Li Yuyun and Luo Ho walk toward him, Lin Feiyun's scalp went numb and his hair stood on end. He screamed in horror. Naturally, I'm going to devour your cultivation. Luo Ho had already arrived in front of Lin Feiyun. The smile on his face was no longer there. Yi Xian, I can't wait to eat your flesh and drink your blood. Li Yuyun roared angrily. Tears of blood flowed out of his eyes. His resentful eyes were extremely frightening. Hate, hate, but this is your destiny. You can only accept it. Yi Xian sighed. Demon swallows heaven and earth. Tribulation immortal technique. At the same time, Luo Ho and Yi Xian roared. The two of them used their respective secret techniques and began to enjoy the fruits of their labor. Ah! I hate it. Lin Feiyun and Li Yoyun's hatred was higher than the sky, but under the devouring of the two secret techniques, their flesh and blood were annihilated little by little. The little bit of chaos origin power produced by the two techniques was also devoured by Yi Xian and Luo Ho. Li Yuyun screamed again and again, and Lin Feiyun cursed bitterly. But as time passed, the flesh and bones of the two turned into nothingness. Finally, their souls scattered between heaven and earth. Rumble. The world shook, and the world was silent. When Yi Xian and Luo Ho devoured their cultivation, extremely terrifying fluctuations overflowed from their bodies at the same time. Even the starry sky within hundreds of millions of miles dimmed. Heavenly Tao's 6 tribulations. Yi Xian said solemnly. At this moment, his cultivation had entered the Heavenly Tao's 6 tribulations. His whole person had entered an indescribable state. He could feel a pair of eyes looking at him from the depths of the starry sky. 6 calamities of the secular world. Luo Ho's indifferent expression was no longer there. His whole person was extremely dignified. His body was flickering with the aura of the secular world, and his aura was raised to the peak. Whether it was the Heavenly Tao's 6 calamities of the secular world or the 6 calamities of the secular world, when the two of them stepped into this realm together, they were not tolerated by the Heavenly Tao. Stepping into the Heavenly Tao's 6 calamities of the secular world, they already had the power to be on par with the heavens. They were faintly breaking the shackles of the Heavenly Tao and transcending the world controlled by the Heavenly Tao. The heavenly Tao operated, and all things submitted. This was the order set by the heavenly Tao, and it was also the truth of the world. If someone wanted to break free from the shackles of the heavenly Tao would send down a supreme tribulation, completely annihilating them in the bud. Rumble. The purple firmament palace crossed the starry river and rumbled over. An azure-robed Taoist walked out from the purple firmament palace. The jade disk of fortune rippled through the starry sky, and an extremely terrifying heavenly Tao's killing intent enveloped Yi Xian and Luo Ho. The sound of the great Tao's thunder caused the three realms to stagnate. Wisps of heavenly Tao's aura rolled in the three realms. Tao ancestor Hung Jun walked towards the two expressionlessly. The sound of the great Tao's thunder constantly exploded in the three realms. Act on behalf of the heavens and exterminate the heretics. Heavenly Tao's green lotuses bloomed in the starry sky. With every step Tao ancestor Hung Jun took, these green lotuses flickered. The extremely terrifying heavenly Tao's killing intent had already locked onto Yi Xian and Luo Ho. Chapter 1027. Old Man Hung Jun, we meet again. Rumble. Luo Ho laughed coldly. The Tongtian's power of the mortal worlds surrounded his body. A dark light flickered in the void. The legendary god-slaying spear was held in Luo Ho's hand. Buzz. At the same time, boundless darkness shrouded the starry sky. Yi Xian's glabella glowed. The heaven-destroying halberd rippled out and then turned into a 3-meter-long halberd in his hand. Nirvana armor. The Nirvana armor appeared on the surface of Yi Xian's body. Yi Xian's essence, energy and spirit had been raised to the peak. Even the power of time and space was used by Yi Xian. Yi Xian and Luo Ho had entered the 6 tribulations of the heavenly way and the 6 disasters of the mortal world. They were no longer tolerated by the heavenly way. Tao ancestor Hung Jun had merged with the heavens. He would definitely kill Yi Xian and Luo Ho on behalf of the heavens because he represented the will of the heavenly way. The two of them were already aware of this situation. This was also the reason why Yi Xian and Luo Ho had joined forces to enter the 6 tribulations of the heavenly way and the 6 disasters of the mortal world. It was for the two of them to join forces to overcome this tribulation. Act on behalf of the heavens. Kill. At this moment, Tao ancestor Hung Jun was not only himself but also representing the rules of the heavenly way. He had appeared to eliminate the 2 heretics, Yi Xian and Luo Ho. Rumble. Rules of the heavenly way exploded the starry sky. Millions of miles of the heavenly way shattered the vacuum and instantly attacked Yi Xian and Luo Ho. This was the rules of the heavenly way and contained the power of the world. The so-called heavenly way saints would be turned into ashes. Of course, Yi Xian and Luo Ho had already surpassed the heavenly way saints. In the face of Tao ancestor Hung Jun's supreme power of the heavenly way, the two of them looked at each other and saw the madness in each other's eyes. Kill. Yi Xian and Luo Ho roared loudly. The heaven-destroying halberd and the god-slaying spear exploded with destructive power and charged towards Tao ancestor Hung Jun. Bang bang bang. Countless stars were being destroyed, and the Milky Way was evaporating. This was the collision of the strongest forces in the 3 dimensions, and the scene of the end of the world was horrifying. Old Man Hung Jun, go to hell. The boundless secular world disturbed the heart of heaven. Luo Ho was indeed terrifying to the extreme. The power that erupted from the god-slaying spear combined with the boundless secular world technique was enough to destroy the 3 realms. Clang! The spear pierced through the 3 realms. Billions of miles of the starry sky turned into a vacuum. The energy shockwaves from the explosion spread toward the Earth immortal world. Countless living beings in the 3 realms died under the shockwaves of the god-slaying spear. Bang! Tao Father Hung Jun was Tao Father Hung Jun after all. His control over the heavenly Tao was simply unfathomable, and he was also known as an invincible existence in the 3 realms. The massive palm that blotted out the heavens for millions of kilometers smacked Luo Ho flying. Go to hell. At the same time, Yi Xian's halberd pierced through the starry sky and turned into a Milky Way that blasted towards Tao Father Hung Jun. How can a single spark compete with the brilliance of the bright moon? Tao Father Hung Jun's words were followed by the law. His 5 fingers stretched out towards Yi Xian, and a killing disk of heaven and earth condensed. With a terrifying power that could obliterate all things, it suppressed Yi Xian. Bang! The killing disk of heaven and earth rumbled as it spun and blasted Yi Xian away. This also proved that Tao Father Hung Jun was simply unfathomably powerful. He was not someone that Yi Xian and Luo Ho could shake. A single spark can start a prairie fire. I don't care if you're Hung Jun or the heavenly Tao. Today, I'll take your life. Yi Xian roared. His figure turned back, and the power of time and space exploded. The Nirvana armor shone brightly, and the heaven-destroying halberd exploded with a mighty power that could pierce through the world. The halberd slashed towards Tao Father Hung Jun. Mortal calamity, break the heavens and destroy the earth. Luo Ho did not want to fall behind. The god-slaying spear tore through hundreds of millions of miles of the starry sky and erupted with the power of the mortal world. It also slashed towards Tao Father Hung Jun. Go! Tao Father Hung Jun frowned in the face of the two's joint attack. The jade disk of good fortune shook and instantly blocked in front of Tao Father Hung Jun. Clang! The spear and the halberd bombarded the jade disk of good fortune at the same time. The loud sound that shook the heavens and the earth directly shattered this part of the starry sky, and the spear and halberd were blasted away. Suppress. Tao Father Hung Jun was emotionless. He flipped his hand and a pair of huge palms came pressing down. Yi Xian and Luo Ho could not dodge in time and were directly slapped out. Puff! Yi Xian and Luo Ho spat out a mouthful of blood at the same time. The mighty light around them dimmed. The two together retreated thousands of miles and finally stabilized their bodies. Strong, too strong, so strong that there was no way to deal with it. Yi Xian originally thought that he would have the strength to fight Tao Father Hung Jun after stepping into the 6 tribulations of the heavenly Tao. However, when he really faced Hung Jun, he realized that Tao Father Hung Jun was simply terrifying. He could not shake him at all. Even with Luo Ho, they were still at a disadvantage. Yi Xian was not the only one with a heavy heart. Luo Ho, who was beside him, also had the same thoughts. Luo Ho did not expect that he and Yi Xian would still be defeated by Hung Jun even after joining forces. In fact, the two of them had overestimated Tao Father Hung Jun. Tao Father Hung Jun was indeed very strong and could be said to be invincible in the 3 realms. However, he was not strong enough to crush the two of them. His cultivation was only slightly higher than theirs. The real reason why Tao Father Hung Jun was so strong was that the two of them had stepped into the 6 tribulations of the heavenly Tao. This made the will of the heavenly Tao feel extremely threatened and gave Tao Father Hung Jun the strongest power in the entire 3 realms. Therefore, Tao Father Hung Jun was so strong that he could kill the two of them here. What should we do? Luo Ho secretly transmitted his voice to Yi Xian. The two of them had just used all their skills to fight with Hung Jun, but they still ended up being crushed. What else can we do? We have already come this far. Do you still want to shrink back? Today, either Hung Jun is defeated and leaves, or you and I will die in his hands. Yi Xian growled ferociously. The 6 tribulations of the heavenly Tao were so terrifying that Yi Xian felt extremely heavy. At this moment, all the conspiracies and tricks were useless. The only way was to defeat Tao Father Hung Jun. Buzz! Suddenly, just as Yi Xian and Luo Ho's hearts were heavy, something that made the two of them extremely surprised happened. They saw the god-slaying spear and the heaven-destroying halberd, which had just been sent flying by Tao Father Hung Jun, crossing each other. Wisps of boundless dark light flickered on the 2 supreme weapons. There was even a mysterious chanting of sutras from the heavens. Nirvana. Nirvana power. When this strange scene appeared, Yi Xian and Luo Ho exclaimed at the same time. This was because the god-slaying spear and the heaven-destroying halberd were fusing continuously. The wisps of terrifying nirvana power were growing. I understand, I understand. Suddenly, Yi Xian's eyes lit up. His face was already extremely red, and his body was trembling with excitement. In the records of the immortal scripture, the heaven-destroying halberd was known as the #1 killing weapon of all time. However, the heaven-destroying halberd had never displayed too much power. It was not on the same level as the Nirvana battle armor. In the past, Yi Xian suspected that the heaven-destroying halberd might not be complete, so it could not display the power it should have. Now that the god-slaying spear was fusing with the heaven-destroying halberd, this further proved Yi Xian's guess. Weapon spirit. The god-slaying spear is the weapon spirit of the heaven-destroying halberd. Suddenly, Yi Xian shouted excitedly. He shot towards the heaven-destroying halberd. Boom! Suddenly, before Yi Xian could get close to the heaven-destroying halberd and the god-slaying spear, Luo Ho blocked his path. The god-slaying spear is my treasure. You can't touch it, Luo Ho said gloomily. Are you an idiot? Look at the situation now. Only by combining the two weapons can we survive this disaster, Yi Xian scolded angrily. He did not give Luo Ho any face. This. Luo Ho's expression changed. He looked hesitant. Get lost. Yi Xian threw a punch at Luo Ho. This also made Luo Ho's expression change. He hurriedly dodged Yi Xian's attack. At the same time, Yi Xian also shot towards the two weapons. At the same time, Dao ancestor Hung Jun frowned. He could feel the destructive power of the god-slaying spear and the heaven-destroying halberd. A great sense of threat appeared in his heart. This also made him hit the god-slaying spear and the heaven-destroying halberd. He could not let the two weapons combine. Chapter 1028. Bang! Dao ancestor Hung Jun was too terrifying and his strength was simply unfathomable. The god-slaying spear and heaven-destroying halberd were sent flying by him. Even Yi Xian was pushed back by his palm. Luo Ho, if you don't want to die, buy me some time. Yi Xian roared at Luo Ho and charged towards the two weapons again. At this moment, only Luo Ho could delay Dao ancestor Hung Jun and buy time for the two weapons to merge. At this moment, Luo Ho's expression was uncertain. The god-slaying spear was his treasure. If the god-slaying spear and heaven-destroying halberd merged and fell into Yi Xian's hands, he would definitely not accept such an outcome. However, Luo Ho was a very calm person and a person who was good at thinking. He knew that if he were to have an internal conflict with Yi Xian now, both of them would end up dying in the hands of Dao ancestor Hung Jun. Alright. Although the god-slaying spear was important, surviving this tribulation was more important. Luo Ho would definitely not lose the big picture for a small gain. This also made him charge towards Dao ancestor Hung Jun to buy time for Yi Xian. Luo Ho was indeed one of the chaos demon gods. At this moment, he had sublimated to the extreme and exploded with a destructive cultivation. All kinds of destruction techniques were launched towards Dao ancestor Hung Jun. Suddenly, the two of them were engaged in a fierce battle. At the same time, Yi Xian took advantage of the gap and finally arrived in front of the two weapons. The immortal scripture was running crazily in his body. The cultivation of the 6 tribulations of the heavenly Tao surged out of Yi Xian's body and poured into the god-slaying spear and heaven-destroying halberd. Merge for me! Yi Xian roared crazily. The god-slaughtering spear and the heaven-punishing halberd rumbled as they began to fuse together once again. Traces of the power of nirvana rippled out as the resplendent light pierced through the starry sky. An extremely terrifying fluctuation faintly overflowed. Bang! Wow! A world slayer landed on Luo Ho, directly causing him to become covered in blood. Cracks appeared on his body, and blood spurted out from Luo Ho's mouth as he was blown 1,000,000,000 kilometers away. Suppress. Tao Ancestor Hung Jun was emotionless. He pushed back Luo Ho with a single strike, and with a flip of his palm, he condensed the entire starry sky and smashed it down at Yi Xian. Time reversal. Yi Xian roared ferociously in the face of Tao Ancestor Hongjuan's world-destroying attack. A wisp of space-time energy flashed on his fist and blasted towards Tao Ancestor Hongjun. Crack. Space was collapsing inch by inch, and time was slowly reversing. Tao Ancestor Hongjuan's attack instantly disappeared, and that wisp of space-time fist light smashed onto Tao Ancestor Hongjuan's body. The great Tao is like the heavens. Tao Ancestor Hongjuan's expression changed slightly. The creation jade disc fell, and the entire three realms' heavenly secrets returned to normal. Yi Xian's punch also vanished without a trace, and Tao Ancestor Hongjun finally neutralized it. Yi Xian, although you have cultivated a wisp of space-time energy, I control the order of the heavenly Tao. All changes in the world are under the control of the heavenly Tao. Today, you will definitely die, Tao Ancestor Hongjun said emotionlessly. Obviously, it was just as Tao Ancestor Hongjun had said. Although Yi Xian had cultivated a strand of time and space energy, the current Tao Ancestor Hongjun was in control of the great Tao of heaven and earth. Yi Xian was no match for him. It was not that the space-time energy was weak, but that Yi Xian had just grasped a wisp of space-time energy. He had only just grasped the door, and was unable to fight against Hongjun, who controlled the entire heavenly Tao. The current Tao Ancestor Hongjun was in his most powerful state in history. The will of the heavenly Tao had given him the power of the entire three realms. This was not only Tao Ancestor Hongjun fighting Yi Xian, but the power of the entire three realms was fighting Yi Xian. Otherwise, how could Yi Xian be crushed by Tao Ancestor Hongjun when he joined forces with Luo Ho? At this moment, Yi Xian frowned, and his eyes were heavy. Tao Ancestor Hongjun had already locked onto his aura. Even the wisp of space-time energy that surrounded him had dimmed. The two weapons were gradually fusing, and it would take some time for them to become one. What should I do? Yi Xian was burning with anxiety. If he did not block Hongjun head-on, Hongjun would definitely take the two weapons. Then, he would have no chance at all. However, if he were to fight Hongjun head-on, he would also suffer a calamity. It was extremely likely that he would die. Yi Xian, stop him. Luo Ho was bathed in blood, and the boundless power of the mortal world surged through the starry sky. He instantly appeared in front of the heaven-destroying halberd and the god-slaying spear, and an extremely terrifying power of the mortal world poured into the two weapons. Buzz! The power of the mortal world was like an accelerant, and instantly accelerated the fusion of the two weapons. This also stunned Yi Xian, and then he suddenly woke up. Luo Ho, I'm counting on you. Yi Xian said with a gloomy face. Although he did not trust Luo Ho, he had no other choice now. If he did not stop Hongjun, both of them would die today. Go! Tao Ancestor Hongjuan's eyes were emotionless, and the jade disc of good fortune came crashing down. Yi Xian roared in the starry sky, and his fists turned into stars that bombarded the jade disc of good fortune. Clang! 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 Yi Xian's spirit had been raised to the extreme, and his essence, qi, and spirit had been raised to the extreme. Every punch he made the jade disc of good fortune constantly retreat, but his fists were gradually becoming bloody and mangled. On the other side, Luo Ho violently poured the power of the mortal world into the two weapons. The god-slaying spear and the heaven-destroying halberd had already merged, and wisps of terrifying power of nirvanic destruction were raging on the halberd. Obviously, it would not take long for the two weapons to merge into one. Clang! The three realms shook, and the stars collapsed. Tao ancestor Hung Jun held up one of his palms, and transformed into a hand of heaven that instantly covered hundreds of millions of miles of the starry sky, and slammed down on Yi Xian. Transcendence World. Facing the attack of Tao ancestor Hung Jun, Yi Xian roared into the sky. His body violently swelled, and directly turned into a giant of 100,000 miles. His feet stepped in the earth immortal realm, and his body of 100,000 miles ran between heaven and earth. His hands held up the hand of heaven, and the starry sky rumbled and shook. Suppress. Tao ancestor Hung Jun sat cross-legged in the starry sky, and his 5 fingers suddenly pressed down. The hand of heaven was pressing down on Yi Xian inch by inch, and it was obvious that he wanted to suppress Yi Xian between heaven and earth. Ah! Yi Xian's body of 100,000 miles shook violently. His hands held up the hand of heaven tightly, and he let out a roar that could shake heaven and earth. Unfortunately, Tao ancestor Hung Jun was too strong. He was so strong that there was no way to deal with him. Rumble. Yi Xian's spine kept bending, and his feet crushed the vast earth. Mouthfuls of blood constantly spewed from his mouth, and a vast rain of blood fell between heaven and earth. Crack. Cracks appeared on Yi Xian's body of 100,000 miles, and it was like the surface of a mirror that was shattering, and it kept spreading to his entire body. Luo Ho. Yi Xian roared wildly, because he could not hold on any longer. At the same time, the heaven-vanquishing halberd and the god-slaying spear finally merged into one, and a ray of nirvanic light shot up into the sky, illuminating the entire world. A large halberd that seemed to be made of black-colored glass appeared, and an ancient murderous aura that shook heaven and earth wreaked havoc throughout the 3 realms. Chapter 1029. Ha! I did it, I did it. Luo Ho flipped his hand and held the heaven-destroying halberd in his hand. Strands of nirvana power surrounded the halberd, which made Luo Ho laugh hysterically. Do it. Yi Xian's huge body instantly returned to normal. The hand of heaven came crashing down on him and Luo Ho. Hung Jun, go to hell. Boundless darkness, murderous intent. As Luo Ho laughed savagely, he swung his halberd at Tao ancestor Hung Jun. The power of nirvanic extermination that could destroy all things whistled out, instantly turning the hand of heaven into dust. Then, the remaining power blasted towards Tao ancestor Hung Jun. Great way heaven and earth. Tao ancestor Hung Jun's face changed in the face of the terrifying nirvana power. The jade disc of fortune blocked in front of him. With a loud explosion, cracks appeared on the jade disc of fortune. Tao ancestor Hung Jun's face turned red and he spat out a mouthful of blood. Ah! Suddenly, an extremely strange thing happened. Luo Ho, who was holding the heaven-destroying halberd, screamed in pain. Strands of nirvana power rebounded on his right arm, causing his right arm to wither rapidly. It even showed signs of spreading to his entire body. Puff! Rahu was indeed ruthless. With a wave of his left hand, he chopped off his right arm. The right arm that fell off turned into a wisp of black smoke under the raging power of nirvanic extermination. Not even a shred of bone was left. How could this be? Luo Ho roared in shock. At the same time, Yi Xian looked at the scene in shock. Then, he suddenly came to his senses and his eyes were heavy. Obviously, although the nirvana power was terrifying and could hurt Tao ancestor Hung Jun, Luo Ho did not control the nirvana power. Naturally, he would be backfired by the nirvana power. The complete heaven-destroying halberd was a double-edged sword. It could hurt the enemy but it could also hurt the user. At the same time, Yi Xian also understood that even if he controlled the heaven-destroying halberd, he would be backfired because he did not control the nirvana power. What a joke, what a joke. Suddenly, above the starry sky, Tao ancestor Hung Jun spoke mercilessly. He looked down at Yi Xian and Luo Ho from above, and his eyes revealed a look of absolute annihilation. This great Tao divine weapon is indeed terrifying. It contains the power of nirvana and can indeed kill me. However, it's a pity that the two of you are unable to control this great Tao divine weapon. Today, the two of you will definitely die. Tao ancestor Hung Jun said endlessly. At this moment, Yi Xian and Luo Ho frowned. Their hearts were heavy to the extreme. Just as Tao ancestor Hung Jun said, although the complete heaven-destroying halberd could hurt Hung Jun, they would also suffer from the backlash. Yi Dao Yu, today, either he dies or we die. Even if the power of nirvanic extermination backfires on us, we will kill him together. Luo Ho said viciously. He swung the heaven-destroying halberd again and charged towards Tao ancestor Hung Jun. Boom. Yi Xian's eyes were ruthless. He also charged towards Tao ancestor Hung Jun. Even if he had to sacrifice himself, he would kill Hung Jun to pass through the 6 tribulations of the heavenly Tao. Rumble. Luo Ho was in front and Yi Xian was behind. The two of them attacked together. Tao ancestor Hung Jun's face was solemn. The good fortune jade disc rumbled and was ready to engage in a life and death battle with the two of them. Myriad tribulations of the mortal world, grafting flowers on trees. Suddenly, Luo Ho, who was charging towards Tao ancestor Hung Jun, turned around abruptly. An extremely terrifying power of mortal world rolled around his body. He actually slapped towards Yi Xian. Bang! A sneak attack without warning. Yi Xian had no time to react. He was hit in the chest by Luo Ho. However, the strange thing was that Yi Xian did not suffer any injuries. Only a wisp of mortal world chi merged into his body. Yi Dao Yu, I'm sorry. I relied on you to pass through the 6 tribulations of the mortal world. I will remember your kindness. When I master the power of nirvanic extermination in the heaven-destroying halberd in the future, I will definitely avenge your death today. Luo Hui smiled ferociously. He held the heaven-destroying halberd in his hand and turned into a ray of light that disappeared. He actually escaped the lock of Tao ancestor Hung Jun and completely disappeared in the starry sky. Luo Ho. Yi Xian's face was ferocious and he roared furiously. However, Luo Ho disappeared with the heaven-destroying halberd and completely left the battlefield. Rumble. Streaks of blood-red lightning suddenly appeared in the starry sky. A terrifying face appeared above the starry sky. The entire 3 realms lit up brightly. Wisps of heavenly Wei law fell towards Tao ancestor Hung Jun. The cracked jade plate of fortune was intact as before. Tao ancestor Hung Jun's aura became even more terrifying. 7 tribulations of the heavenly Wei. It's actually the 7 tribulations of the heavenly Wei. Such a scene stunned Yi Xian. He could feel that his cultivation had changed again. It actually allowed him to step into the 7 tribulations of the heavenly Wei from the 6 tribulations of the heavenly Wei. Yi Xian's injuries were instantly healed. His aura became terrifyingly powerful again. However, Yi Xian did not show any joy. Instead, his eyes showed extreme despair. Luo Ho, you bastard! Yi Xian roared furiously. Stars exploded one after another and the Milky Way of the galaxy turned upside down. 6 tribulations of the mortal world. Luo Ho had grafted his 6 tribulations of the secular world onto Yi Xian's body. This allowed him to escape the battlefield. Obviously, Luo Ho would never die together with Tao ancestor Hung Jun. When he realized that he could not control the heaven-destroying halberd's nirvana power, he already had the idea of escaping. However, he was crossing the 6 tribulations of the secular world. The heavenly Wei's chi had locked onto him. He could not leave the battlefield at all. However, Luo Ho was extremely smart and a scheming person. He had already prepared a backup plan for himself to cross the 6 tribulations of the secular world. 10,000 tribulations of the secular world, grafting flowers on trees. This was the supreme secret technique of the boundless secular world technique. It was also the reason why he dared to cooperate with Yi Xian. If the two of them could not cross the tribulation, he would find an opportunity to use this technique and graft his 6 tribulations of the secular world onto Yi Xian's body. This secret technique could only be used by people of the same realm. Luo Ho had always treated Yi Xian as his substitute for crossing the tribulation. This was also the reason why he was on good terms with Yi Xian and even cooperated with Yi Xian. At this moment, Yi Xian not only had to cross his 6 tribulations of the heavenly way, but also graft Luo Ho's 6 tribulations of the secular world. This directly made him enter the 7 tribulations of the heavenly way. Although Yi Xian's entering the 7 tribulations of the heavenly way made his cultivation even more terrifying, this was not a good thing. It also meant that the tribulation he was about to encounter would be upgraded to an unimaginable level. The 6 tribulations of the heavenly way, the 6 tribulations of the secular world, coupled with the arrival of the 7 tribulations of the heavenly way at this moment, directly gave Tao ancestor Hong Jun an unimaginable power. Yi Xian's entering the 7 tribulations of the heavenly way was indeed very strong. However, Tao ancestor Hong Jun was now stronger than him. And this was only the tip of the iceberg. With the 3 major tribulations gathered, all of Yi Xian's hidden dangers would erupt one by one. He would also face the most terrifying death tribulation in history. There was no possibility of survival. Chapter 1030. Rumble. Hundreds of millions of miles of the starry sky were sinking. Vast and boundless clouds were lingering. Wisps of heavenly Tao killing intent were spreading out. Raging 9 heavens divine thunder flashed in the 3 realms. Tao ancestor Hong Jun sat cross-legged in the starry sky. His aura that could suppress all things in the world slowly bloomed. Yi Xian was as insignificant as an ant in front of him. How could he survive this tribulation? Yi Xian looked up at the sky, speechless. He fell silent. He could feel that he was no match for Hong Jun. A feeling of death was surging towards him. At the same time, in the ancestral land of the sorcerer race. Boom! Heaven and earth trembled and all things wailed. A giant surrounded by chaos walked out of the ancestral land of the sorcerer race. Wisps of chaos aura surrounded the giant. With every step he took, the 3 realms rumbled and shook as if it was about to be destroyed. Yi Xian, today is the time for the sorcerer race to settle accounts with you. Tong Tian moved the earth and roared at the 3 realms. This was the Pangu real body condensed by the 12 ancestral sorcerers. The Pangu real body that could move heaven and earth stepped into the sky and went straight outside the 33rd heaven. On the other side, in the 5th manor of Longevity Mountain, Zhen Yuanzi looked up at the starry sky. Wisps of black fog rose around him. Daoist Landia stood beside him with a green gourd in his hand. What happened in the past is the result today. It's time for us to take action, Zhen Yuanzi muttered gloomily. After waiting for so long, this moment has finally come. Success or failure depends on this, said Daoist Landia in an unpredictable manner. Let's go. Zhen Yuanzi roared and turned into a wisp of black fog that shot out of the 33rd heaven. Daoist Landia also soared into the sky. Outside the 33rd heaven. Rumble. The Pangu real body stepped through the starry sky. The supreme power that could suppress heaven and earth poured out. The Pangu real body condensed by the 12 ancestral sorcerers was too terrifying. With every step it took, the surrounding space faintly collapsed. Yi Xian. Pangu roared in the starry sky. Stars exploded behind him, and his towering body showed up in the starry sky where Yi Xian was. Pangu's true body. Yi Xian's eyes darkened, and a fierce look flashed across his eyes. He knew that the combination of the 3 tribulations would not be so simple. Now, even Pangu's true body had appeared. Heavenly Tao Hong Jun. Pangu's true body. Yi Xian stood proudly in the starry sky. An explosive aura surged out from him. He looked around and a maniacal smile appeared on his face. Yuan Ling, it's already so late. You must have come, right? Yi Xian laughed maniacally. Since they had reached a dead end, Yuan Ling would definitely appear. Disciple, master is here. Rumble. A wisp of black fog drifted over. Landia followed closely behind. When the wisp of black fog dissipated, Zhen Yuanzi also appeared in Yi Xian's eyes. Ancestor of the Earth Immortals, Grand Deity Zhen Yuan. My good master, you are indeed Yuan Ling. Yi Xian smiled coldly and looked straight at Zhen Yuanzi. You guessed it long ago. Yuan Ling. No, he should be called Zhen Yuanzi. Zhen Yuanzi said with a gloomy face. All those years ago, when I pursued your clone to the earthly immortal dimension, you once mistakenly told me that you were in existence revered as an ancestor in the earthly immortal dimension, yet how many people in the three dimensions can be revered as an ancestor? Ancestor of the Earth Immortals, Grand Deity Zhen Yuan. Master, you really hit it well. Yi Xian smiled coldly and continued, of course, just this point alone can't prove your identity. However, when I married the Empyrean maiden, it was you, Zhen Yuanzi, who facilitated it. You even personally went to Nuwa Palace to propose marriage for me. That was how the enmity between me and Nuwa came about. Continue. I really want to know what other flaws I have, Zhen Yuanzi said calmly. Back then, I was almost killed by Yuanshi Tianzuan. Instead, it was Yuan Ling who saved me. You, Zhen Yuanzi, just happened to be there. During the battle in the underworld, Yuan Ling appeared again, and you, Zhen Yuanzi, were at the side. These are all points of suspicion. But this still can't prove that I'm Yuan Ling. Zhen Yuanzi shook his head lightly. Actually, I've always been suspicious. However, it wasn't until you helped Ziwei block a blow from Nuwa that I was truly sure of your identity. How could a sage-to-be block a blow from Nuwa? However, you did it. After connecting so many clues, if I still didn't know that you were Yuan Ling, wouldn't I be too stupid? Yi Xian said with a self-deprecating smile. Disciple, I, Zhen Yuanzi, have taught countless things in my life. There are too many disciples in the three realms, but you are the only disciple I'm most proud of. Zhen Yuanzi said in a low voice. A trace of self-deprecation flashed across his face, and he continued, to be honest, I've been gratified and scared for more than 200,000 years. I'm gratified that the heavenly Wei Hong Jun, the three pure sages, and even the demon ancestor Luo Ho are not as powerful as I, Zhen Yuanzi. I've cultivated an invincible disciple in the three realms. Even the heavenly Wei sages were trampled under his feet, and the will of the heavenly Wei was extremely afraid of him. But I'm also afraid. I'm afraid that everything I've done will be in vain. I'm even more afraid that I'll die in your hands one day. Disciple, I've watched you grow day by day. From a little boy to an invincible expert in the three realms. This honor is not only yours, but also mine. However, you and I, master and disciple, have to come to an end. But I can proudly say that in the three realms, and even in the chaotic world, I, Zhen Yuanzi, am definitely an unparalleled figure, because I've cultivated an earth-shattering disciple. Zhen Yuanzi said a lot. He said all the words in his heart. These words had been hidden in his heart for a long time. Today, he could finally speak them out. Yuan Ling, I still prefer to call you Yuan Ling, because the name Zhen Yuanzi is too unfamiliar. Yi Xian looked straight at Zhen Yuanzi and continued, without you, Yuan Ling, there would be no Yi Xian today. Whether I live or die today, you deserve to be called my master. Ha ha ha. Zhen Yuanzi laughed wildly and said, good, good, good. You're indeed my disciple. I didn't misjudge you. Even in such a desperate situation, you still have no fear. Disciple, to be honest, I really can't bear to kill you. It should be my greatest pride to have you as my disciple. What a pity, what a pity. Only one of us can survive. Today, I can kill you. Zhen Yuanzi's expression gradually turned cold. Rumble. The immortal scripture suddenly operated. Wisps of black mist rose from Zhen Yuanzi's body, and an unimaginably terrifying power erupted. Zhen Yuanzi was not a sage to be. He had achieved Tao in a different way long ago, and his cultivation had surpassed that of a heavenly sage. Although he was not as good as Yi Xian, the power that erupted at this moment was extremely shocking. Yi Daoyu, rest in peace. Daoist Landia suddenly shook, and wisps of green light shot into the sky. The natural Tao light was stirring up the starry sky. It turned out that he was also a cultivator who achieved Tao in a different way. Chapter 1031. Yi Xian, you killed our ancestral shaman and almost wiped out our shaman lineage. Today, you will die under Pangu's true body. Pangu's true body stood indomitable. Its heavy body shattered the starry sky, giving people a feeling that it was as heavy as the world. I am the heavenly Tao. I kill heretics. Tao ancestor Hung Jun sat cross-legged in the starry sky. The heavenly Tao's killing intent filled the sky and earth. Yi Xian, you deserve this. Rumble. Two rays of green light shot out from the depths of the starry sky. The heavenly sovereign of Tao and virtue and the heavenly sovereign of primordial beginning had arrived together. The saint's killing intent was firmly locked onto Yi Xian. Yi Xian, return my sister's life. On the other side of the starry sky, the three sovereigns of the human race whistled over. Wisps of human Tao power poured out. With the three tribulations, the entire world was his enemy. Pangu's true body was in the east, Tao ancestor Hung Jun was above, Zhen Yuanzi and Landia were in the south, Dao Tianzuan and Yuanshi Tianzuan were in the north, and the three sovereigns of the human race were in the west. With eternal killing intent, he would definitely die. This was a sure-death situation. No one in the three realms could reverse it. Unless Pangu came back to life, no one could save Yi Xian's life. Ha ha ha. Yi Xian laughed wildly at the sky. His laughter was extremely unruly. There was no fear on his face, and his eyes were gradually turning scarlet and ferocious. All right, since you're all here, I, Yi Xian, will see how you kill me today. Yi Xian roared at the sky. He knew that he would definitely die today, but even if he died, he would not sit still and wait for death. Die. Pangu's true body punched through the starry sky. This was Pangu's physical body. Although there was no cultivation in it, the strength of his physical body alone surpassed Yi Xian's. Pangu's true body. Let me see how capable you are. Yi Xian roared ferociously and punched Pangu's true body. Bang! The two fists collided with each other. Pangu's true body was blown away, but Yi Xian didn't give in. He continued to attack Pangu's true body. Pangu's true body was indeed very strong. Its physical body even surpassed Yi Xian's physical body. However, Pangu's true body did not have any cultivation while Yi Xian was already in the midst of the 7 tribulations of the heavenly Tao. His cultivation combined with his physical body directly caused Pangu's true body to show signs of defeat. Clang! Clang! Yi Xian's fists were like stars that filled the sky as they smashed onto Pangu's true body. Pangu's true body was forced to continuously retreat as earth-shattering sounds continuously rang out. Kill him! The three sovereigns of the human race roared furiously, especially Fushi, whose eyes were filled with hatred. His terrifying power of humanity transformed into ribbons of order that shot towards Yi Xian. Do it! Dao Tianzuan produced a Taiji diagram and sent it towards Yi Xian. Yuanshi Tianzuan waved the Pangu banner and charged towards Yi Xian. Disciple, your great tribulation has arrived. Give your cultivation base to me. Zhen Yuanzi transformed into beams of undying demon light. The karmic power that suppressed Yi Xian rippled out and smashed towards Yi Xian. Baby, please turn around. Landia produced his immortal slaying flying saber. The blue gourd opened and a beam of immortal slaying divine light shot towards Yi Xian. Suppress. Tao ancestor Hung Jun sat cross-legged in the starry sky. He had completely transformed into the will of the heavenly Tao. A world-destroying millstone condensed and came crashing down on Yi Xian. Kill. Yi Xian's expression was mournful. He had encountered an unprecedented tribulation. He roared furiously at the heavens and earth. Clang. Yi Xian shattered Lao Tzu's Taiji diagram with a punch. He turned around and slapped Yuanshi Tianzuan with his palm. The destructive power blasted the two saints into pieces in the starry sky. A rain of blood filled the sky. The two saints died. The two saints of the heavenly Tao were unable to block Yi Xian's attack and were blasted into pieces in the starry sky. But this was not the end. Yi Xian killed the two saints with one strike. However, the chains of order from the three sovereigns had already wrapped around him, trying to kill him in the starry sky. Break! Bang! Yi Xian shook his arms. The chains of order wrapped around him shattered inch by inch. A giant palm that blotted out the sky condensed and slapped towards the three sovereigns. Boom! The three sovereigns' expressions changed drastically. Their auras combined to condense a sky-blotting light curtain. However, under Yi Xian's palm, it was completely shattered. The three sovereigns' chests were bleeding. They were nearly killed by Yi Xian. Clang! Yi Xian suddenly turned his head. When he punched out, the immortal slaying flying saber was shattered into pieces. However, a huge cut appeared on his fist. A large amount of blood dyed his fist red. Bang! 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 Wah! Yi Xian spat out a mouthful of blood. Zhen Yuanzi's undying great technique had already bombarded Yi Xian. This great technique had no effect on Yi Xian, but the karma power contained in it completely suppressed him. It also directly injured Yi Xian. The so-called karma power was naturally not cultivated by Zhen Yuanzi. He was Yi Xian's master. Yi Xian's cultivation was given to him by Zhen Yuanzi. Somehow, the karma power that suppressed Yi Xian was produced. This was also the method that Zhen Yuanzi used to suppress Yi Xian. Clang! Pangu's true body punched out, causing Yi Xian to stagger. Terrifying cracks appeared on his body. This also allowed Yi Xian to turn around and send Pangu's true body flying with a punch. However, this was only the beginning. Yi Xian's greatest danger arrived at this moment. The apocalyptic millstone condensed by Tao ancestor Hung Jun was crashing down on him. Rumble. The world annihilation millstone rumbled as it rotated. Yi Xian was directly suppressed. The terrifying heavenly energy pressed down on his body, instantly shattering his body inch by inch. Even his flesh, blood, and bones were revealed. Nirvana battle armor. Yi Xian's body was bathed in blood as he roared crazily. The Nirvana battle armor erupted with black lightning and shattered the apocalyptic millstone. However, the Nirvana battle armor also dimmed and instantly disappeared from Yi Xian's body. Kill. Tao ancestor Hung Jun was too terrifying. He could kill Yi Xian alone. He pointed the finger of the heavenly Tao, which expanded to a size of 50,000 miles and pressed down on Yi Xian again. I can't accept this. Yi Xian roared at the sky, his eyes filled with despair. He soared into the sky and punched out violently with both fists. However, Tao ancestor Hung Jun's finger was too terrifying. It directly suppressed Yi Xian, causing his body to be badly damaged. His entire body fell toward the earth immortal world. Rumble. Yi Xian suddenly smashed into the vast land. However, the finger of the heavenly Tao that was 50,000 miles long whistled down and pressed down on his body. The boundless land collapsed and shattered, and Yi Xian's body became a bloody mess. Barf. A mouthful of blood essence spat out from Yi Xian's mouth. His entire body was dripping with blood, and he'd completely lost the appearance a person should have. However, he still defied the heavens and crazily charged towards Tao ancestor Hung Jun. Bang! Tao ancestor Hung Jun stepped into the sky and grabbed Yi Xian with his 5 fingers. A giant palm from the sky suppressed Yi Xian in the void. Kill! Pangu's true body rushed over and punched through Yi Xian's chest. Dao Tianzuan and Yuanshi Tianzuan came back to life and used the boundless art on Yi Xian's body. The 3 sovereigns of the human race were covered in blood, but they still used the chains of order to wrap around Yi Xian. Only Zhen Yuanzi's eyes flickered. He turned into a black fog that covered the sky and drowned Yi Xian. He wanted to devour Yi Xian's cultivation. Obviously, Zhen Yuanzi no longer wanted to occupy Yi Xian's body because Yi Xian would definitely die today. He only wanted to obtain Yi Xian's cultivation of the 7 tribulations of the heavenly Tao. This was also his true goal. Arg! With the arrival of the great calamity, death was inevitable. Yi Xian's entire body was suppressed between heaven and earth. He roared crazily, unwilling to die between heaven and earth. However, with Tao ancestor Hongjuan's imprisonment, Pangu's true body's bombardment, the few saints adding insult to injury, and Zhen Yuanzi crazily devouring his cultivation, the power of karma made it impossible for him to mobilize a trace of his cultivation. Yi Xian had really reached a dead end. It was tragic, extremely tragic. Yi Xian suffered the most terrifying death in history. This was the horror of the 3 tribulations. They would never give him a chance to live. Chapter 1032. At this critical moment, a beam of sword light streaked across heaven and earth, accompanied by a furious roar. Kill! Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Dongtian pierced through the ground and unleashed a murderous sword light. The 4 immortal extermination swords crossed the starry sky and the boundless immortal extermination formation appeared. 4 beams of supreme sword light slashed down. No one can save him today. Pangu's true body roared and punched out, sending the 4 immortal extermination swords flying. Lao Tzu and Yuanshi Tianzuan also sent the formation flying. Master, please show mercy. I will definitely persuade him to destroy his cultivation and be imprisoned in Bo Palace forever, never to appear in the world again. Tong Tian crossed the starry sky and looked at the imprisoned Yi Xian with a pale face. He prostrated himself at Tao ancestor Hongjuan's feet and begged bitterly. How dare you, Tong Tian? How dare you stop Master from killing the heretic? Celestial Master Yuanshan rebuked loudly. Tong Tian, you and I are one and the same. We are also saints of the heavenly Tao. Don't associate yourself with Yi Xian, Lao Tzu rebuked coldly. Master, please give him a way out. I beg you. Tong Tian kept kowtowing to Hung Jun, for he knew he couldn't save Yi Xian at all. Only Tao ancestor Hongjuan's great mercy could allow Yi Xian to live. Yi Xian defied the heavens and has long since courted death. You may leave. Tao ancestor Hung Jun was emotionless and emotionless. At this moment, he had transformed into the will of the heavenly Tao and showed no mercy to Yi Xian at all. Stars of the universe, the absolute heaven of chaos. His roar shattered the starry sky and shook the 3 realms. Mount Buzhou traversed the starry sky and the 33 layers of the celestial court roared furiously. The 2 great formations of heaven and earth covered the starry sky for billions of miles. Celestial Master, we're here to save you. We will live and die together, and we will burn together. Kill! The 33 layers of celestial court charged over and immediately set up the heaven and earth great formations. The Empyrean fairy, who had not been seen for a long time, had a grim expression on her face as she commanded the heaven and earth great formations to rescue Yi Xian. Break! Ziwei Tiandi's expression was cold. He struck out with his saint technique, wanting to save Yi Xian. However, Daoist Landia also struck out with his palm, turning his attack into dust. Yi Xian's remaining subordinates, you're all courting death. Pangu threw out a punch, shattering the heaven and earth formations. Countless heavenly soldiers and generals were turned into mists of blood and fell into the starry sky. A battle of this level was not something the celestial court could participate in. Ugh, ah. The obliterating millstone was firmly suppressing Yi Xian while Zhen Yuanzi was madly devouring his cultivation. Now that the Tongtian and the 33 layers of celestial court had come to his rescue, Yi Xian was in utter despair. Go, all of you, go! Yi Xian roared. He knew that neither the Tongtian nor the 33 layers of celestial court could save him. On the contrary, they would only put themselves in danger. We will live and die together, and we will burn together. The 33 layers of celestial court roared. Everyone looked at Yi Xian with despair in their eyes. They knew that they could not save Yi Xian, but even if they died today, they would use the last of their cultivation. They could not watch as Yi Xian's soul scattered between heaven and earth. Yi Xian, not only will you die today, but the 33 layers of celestial court you created will also perish. I want you to watch them die in front of you with your own eyes. Pangu's true body roared ferociously and charged toward the 33 layers of celestial court. I'll destroy your orthodoxy and make sure you never reincarnate. Lao Tzu and Yuanzhi Tianzun roared and also charged toward the 33 layers of celestial court. The three human sovereigns were seriously injured, but they also charged toward the 33 layers of celestial court. How dare you! Sect leader Tongtian roared, and the four immortal slaying swords rumbled. However, before sect leader Tongtian could make a move, ancestor Hong Jun pointed his finger, and sect leader Tongtian was imprisoned. The four immortal slaying swords lost all their power and fell down. The celestial court will be destroyed. You can't do anything. Dao ancestor Hong Jun's words were law. Master. Tongtian's eyes were as red as blood. He knelt down powerlessly and let out an extremely shrill roar. Bang! One punch, just one punch. Pangu's true body was so terrifying that it collapsed Mount Buzhou with one punch. The 8 monster kings exploded into a rain of blood, and the immortals from all directions howled miserably. Die, all of you! Yuanzhi Tianzun waved the Pangu banner and brought it down. The 33 layers of celestial court collapsed inch by inch. Dong Huangtai, Di Jun, and the others were bathed in blood. Bang! Under Dao Tianzun's attack, Nether River Patriarch turned into a rain of blood and scattered in the starry sky. Puff! Although the three human sovereigns were seriously injured, they were invincible against the celestial court. Kong Xian and the others were bathed in blood, and they kept laughing ferociously. Run! Taishang Laojun suddenly roared. He turned into a beam of light and flew down to the lower realm. He didn't want to be destroyed with the celestial court. Celestial Master, it's not that I, Kunpeng, am not disloyal to you. But today, we are doomed. I don't want to be buried with the celestial court. Demon Master Kunpeng roared bitterly. He revealed his true form and disappeared from the celestial court with a flap of his wings. You traitors! Fatso Huang and Gu Beichen roared. However, their bodies were also cracked by the aftermath of Yuanzhi Tianzun's attack. Obviously, if this continued, not only would the 33 layers of celestial court be buried in the starry sky, but all of them would also perish. Yi Xian, not only will you die today, but your orthodoxy will also be buried with you. Pangu's real body punched out and more than half of the 33 layers of celestial court was destroyed. Countless members of the celestial court died tragically under this attack. Puff! Empyrean Fairy spat out a mouthful of blood and fell heavily to the ground. Pangu's real body stomped on Empyrean Fairy as if he wanted to trample her to death. We can't live together, but we can die together. If there is an afterlife, I want to love you again. Empyrean Fairy stared blankly at Yi Xian, who was suppressed in the starry sky. A line of clear tears appeared in her eyes, as if she wanted to imprint Yi Xian's face in her soul forever. Ziwei, save her! Yi Xian roared shrilly. Tears of blood flowed out of his eyes. His voice was filled with hatred and anger. His cultivation of the 7 tribulations of the heavenly Tao rumbled and rolled. Bang! Pangu's real body stomped on the ground. Empyrean Fairy exploded into a cloud of blood mist. Yi Xian was stunned as blood rained down from the sky. Ha ha ha! Pangu's real body laughed wildly. Although he didn't kill Yi Xian with his own hands, killing Empyrean Fairy with one stomp eased his hatred to the extreme. A worthy younger brother, Ziwei Tiandi's face was deathly pale. He knelt down heavily, too ashamed to look at Yi Xian. Ah! Why? Why didn't you save her? Yi Xian roared shrilly and angrily, hating the injustice of the heavens. His eyes were fixed on Ziwei Tiandi. Ziwei, you did well. Zhen Yuanzi appeared. Yi Xian, my good disciple, let me tell you a truth that you never knew. Ziwei is actually not my disciple. He is just a good corpse that I severed. He is also a chess piece that I placed beside you, Zhen Yuanzi said in a deep voice. A worthy younger brother, I'm sorry. I really didn't want to do this. Ziwei Tiandi slowly closed his eyes. He was really just a chess piece that had always been controlled by Zhen Yuanzi. The reason why he didn't want to become a saint was because he knew that even after he became a saint, he would still be used by Zhen Yuanzi. Ha ha ha! Yi Xian laughed wildly. He laughed at himself for not being as cunning as Zhen Yuanzi. Even now, he was still tricked by Zhen Yuanzi. It's over. It's all over. My disciple, give up resisting. Zhen Yuanzi let out a long sigh. Yi Xian, you will die today. Pangu's real body roared coldly. Your legend is over. Lao Tzu and Yuanshi Tianzuan sneered. Yi Xian, Nuwa died because of you. Today, I will make you pay with your life. Fushi roared. Chapter 1033. The world was austere, and the starry sky was silent. Boundless killing intent enveloped Yi Xian. Dao ancestor Hung Jun sat cross-legged in the starry sky, looking down at Yi Xian emotionlessly. The obliteration millstone rumbled as it rotated, suppressing Yi Xian in the starry sky. Today is indeed Yi Xian's death. But even if I die, I won't let you have it easy. Yi Xian suddenly looked up. His eyes were scarlet and terrifying. Bolts of black divine lightning flashed around him as the Nirvana battle armor appeared. The entire starry sky shook violently, and the obliteration millstone above his head gradually cracked. Bang! The world annihilation millstone exploded with a loud bang. Yi Xian slowly stood up. The black lightning intertwined with the Nirvana battle armor had even shattered his body. It's useless. Even if the Nirvana battle armor is invulnerable, you can't control the Nirvana power within. You won't be able to survive this calamity, said Zhen Yuanzi with a frown. Human realm. Suddenly, Yi Xian didn't attack Zhen Yuanzi and company. Instead, he suddenly threw out a black bead. A door appeared and instantly sucked in the dilapidated 33-layered celestial court. Run. Never come back. Yi Xian laughed bitterly. The space-time power tore open space, and he suddenly sent the human realm into the spatial rift. Sir, no. Celestial Venerable. We're not leaving. The remnants of the 33-layered celestial court roared, but they had already been exiled into the endless void by Yi Xian. The spatial rift instantly closed, causing the human realm to disappear from the starry sky. You actually refined the human realm? Zhen Yuanzi was stunned, but it was too late to stop him. After exiling the human realm and the 33-layered celestial court into the endless void, Yi Xian fell silent. The terrifying aura around him gradually weakened. Perhaps some people would ask, why didn't Yi Xian escape with him? The reason was very simple. It was because he had been locked onto by Tao ancestor Hung Jun. Even if he escaped with the 33 layers of the celestial court into the human realm, Tao ancestor Hung Jun could still lock onto his position. This was of no use at all. Instead, it would harm the 33 layers of the celestial court. Yuan Ling, the karma of the past is the karma of today. My cultivation was bestowed upon me by you. Today, I, Yi Xian, will return it all to you. From now on, you and I, master and disciple, owe each other nothing. Tribulation Immortal Technique. Yi Xian let out a mournful roar as the Calamity Transcender technique was activated. His entire body turned into a black fog that covered Jin Yuanzi. This made Jin Yuanzi overjoyed as he frantically began to absorb Yi Xian's cultivation. The so-called Calamity Transcender technique could not only devour the cultivation of others, but also allow others to devour one's own cultivation. Since Yi Xian owed Yuan Ling karma, he would repay it all today. From now on, he and Yuan Ling would not owe each other anything. Stop him. Tao ancestor Hongjuan's complexion changed as he slapped his palm towards Yi Xian and Jin Yuanzi. However, it was already too late. Jin Yuanzi cultivated the immortal scripture, which was of the same origin as Yi Xian. In an instant, Yi Xian's cultivation was completely absorbed, and an extremely terrifying aura erupted. Bang! Jin Yuanzi raised his hand and unleashed the heaven-splitting technique, which barely offset Tao ancestor Hongjuan's attack. His whole body retreated hundreds of millions of miles away as he looked at Yi Xian with an extremely complicated gaze. Why? Jin Yuanzi's voice trembled and was puzzled. Monstrous waves were set off in his mind. At this moment, Yi Xian's body was condensing. He was half-kneeling in the starry sky, and his cultivation had completely dissipated. Only the wisp of space-time power supported him to not fall. The Nirvana battle armor on his body disappeared again. Clown, your death is not to be regretted. Pangu's true body punched out and directly penetrated Yi Xian's chest. Without the support of the 7 tribulations of the heavenly Tao, his body could not withstand the blow of Pangu's true body. Cough, cough, cough. Yi Xian kept coughing up blood, but a sad smile appeared on his face. At this moment, he was already a lamp that had run out of oil. Even if Tao ancestor Hung Jun did not kill him, his soul would dissipate between heaven and earth. You all want me to die, and you have finally succeeded. However, before I die, I will give you a big gift. Ha ha ha. Yi Xian kept coughing up blood, and his laughter became more and more tragic. The wisp of space-time power lingered around his body, which was also his last strength. Rumble. Time and space froze as Yi Xian sat cross-legged in the starry sky. His glabella was glowing as a space-time sapling floated out from his glabella, whoosh. The space-time sapling swayed in the starry sky. It was only 3 inches in size, but it strangely grew crazily until it turned into a towering tree that spanned across the boundless starry sky. Yi Xian sat cross-legged under the space-time divine tree. His expression was very calm, so calm that there were no ripples. However, the chanting of sutras sounded from all directions as Yi Xian was enveloped by the space-time power. Traversing the universe's primordial chaos, condensing the heaven-earth mystic yellow, shuttling between the past and the future, the river of time that exists in eternal space-time, I use my life to call you, rumble. The space-time divine tree swayed loudly as Yi Xian's flesh and blood gradually disappeared. His entire body turned into a skeleton, and there was no longer any vitality coming from him. He had truly fallen between heaven and earth. However, although Yi Xian had fallen, the space-time divine tree above his head was swaying wildly. Endless space-time power emanated from it, causing the sound of waves to surge in the starry sky beyond the 33-layered heavens. Whoosh, an illusory figure was going against the river of time from the future to the present. The waves of time surged endlessly beneath his feet, and the stars in the sky dimmed. Only this figure became the brightest star in the world. Sigh. Calamity is not calamity, difficult is not difficult, leaving a sigh in the eternal void. The heavens and the earth mourned, and the eternity was lonely. This figure went against the river of time to come to the present. His figure was blurry, but he stood silently in front of Yi Xian's skeleton. Bleakness, loneliness, sorrow, and an indescribable loneliness. He looked silently at Yi Xian's skeleton, and a long sigh came from his mouth. You said that you wanted to change the future and break the shackles of fate, but the future me is disappearing. This calamity is not only your calamity, but also mine. Space-time is unpredictable, and time is merciless. This calamity was supposed to be with the help of the heaven-destroying halberd, but why did it become like this? The illusory figure sighed in loneliness. Who are you? The three sovereigns of the human race shouted in shock and anger. The heavens and the earth were solemn, and all spells were silent. The space-time of the entire three realms was stagnant, but it did not affect the starry sky beyond the 33-layered heavens. Who am I? The illusory figure slowly turned around, and his figure gradually solidified. A familiar face appeared before everyone's eyes. Yi Xian. Yi Xian. The three sovereigns of the human race roared in shock. Not only the three sovereigns of the human race, but even Tao ancestor Hung Jun, who was sitting cross-legged in the starry sky, was trembling. The will of the heavenly way disappeared without a trace. It was as if the will of the heavenly way was extremely afraid of this person's appearance. Reversing the river of time, breaking the ancient and modern heavens and earth, I came from the future to the present world in order to bury myself in this world, the illusory figure whispered softly. Go to hell. The three sovereigns of the human race trembled and roared. They performed a great human path technique and attacked the illusory figure. Buzz. The black illusory figure was silent, but the three sovereigns of the human race strangely turned into fragments and disappeared in the starry sky. The great human path technique that was attacking him also turned into nothing. Fellow, you came from the future. Tao ancestor Hung Jun's face was pale, and his body and mind were trembling to the extreme. This was because the rumbling and surging long river of time made him feel extremely terrified. He only glanced at this black shadow, and he felt his saint heart shaking violently. It was as if the other party could kill him with a single glance. Unfortunately, the black illusory figure did not answer. He did not look at Tao ancestor Hung Jun from beginning to end. Instead, he silently looked at Yi Xian's skeleton. I don't have much time left. It's staring at me in the river of time. Whether you can break it and rise again depends on you. The black illusory figure let out a long sigh. Rumble. An ancient bronze coffin appeared. The black illusory figure gently placed Yi Xian's skeleton in the ancient bronze coffin. Then, with a wave of his hand, the ancient bronze coffin carrying Yi Xian's skeleton fell to the mortal world and then mysteriously disappeared. I came from the future to the present world and buried you in this world with my own hands. This period of time has been changed by you. In the future, I will no longer exist. The black illusory figure sighed softly, whoosh. The river of time gradually became illusory, and a pair of ancient ferocious eyes appeared in the river of time. Along with an ancient ferocious roar, the black shadow suddenly shattered and disappeared, and the outside of the 33rd heaven gradually became clear again. Tribulation or not, difficult or not, a sigh was left in the void. Dreams are not dreams, flowers are not flowers, the river of time is still there. A sorrowful voice came from all the worlds. The river of time also dissipated. Only Tao ancestor Hung Jun and the others were trembling and speechless. They were completely shocked by this strange thing. Chapter 1034. Time passed quickly, and the world changed. Time was the most merciless. It could wipe away all the sorrow in the heart and erase all the past events. It could bury the past in the dust of time, and it was enough for people to forget the distant and unknown past. Time flew by like a white steed flashing through a crack. The tide of time surged down according to the unchanging laws of time, and it buried the past and covered the dusty history. The old legend, the history of heaven and earth were originally divided into 3 realms. However, a destructive war broke out 3 million years ago, and the 3 realms were shattered. Tao ancestor Hong Jun used his boundless magic power to combine the 3 realms into one, turning it into a piece of untainted land. It had been 2,999,999 years since the destructive war. In 1 more year, it would be 3 million years. No one knew what happened 3 million years ago, and no one knew why the destructive war started. That era seemed to have become a fault. No ancient books in the world recorded the history of 3 million years ago. It was as if the era of the untainted land was only 3 million years. Everything about 3 million years ago had become a taboo. Tens of thousands of daos contended, and hundreds of flowers bloomed. This was an extremely bright and prosperous era, one that had never been seen before. 3 million years had passed, and the untainted land was vast and boundless. The spiritual energy of heaven and earth filled the sky and the earth. In these 3 million years, people who could be called heaven-defying evildoers appeared. There was a peerless demon monarch who rose against the heavens. He could be called the strongest person in the demon clan since ancient times. He held the bell of chaos in his hand and was called the demon monarch. There was also the Immortal court, who was in charge of the immortals in the untainted land. Wherever the lord of the Immortal court went, all living things would submit to him. There was also the lord of the Wu clan, who could pluck the stars and take the moon. He led the Wu clan to dominate the world and was called the supreme ruler of heaven and earth. There was also the Wushuang ghost monarch who controlled the 6 paths of reincarnation. All the Yin spirits in the untainted land obeyed his orders. No one in the untainted land dared to compete with him. Hundreds of flowers bloomed, tens of thousands of daos contended, and created a bright and prosperous era for the untainted land. There was a rising star of the demon tribe who defied the natural order and could be said to be the most talented person in the demon tribe since ancient times. He cultivated the demon monarch battle body and had the cultivation of Daluo Jingxian when he was born. Moreover, it only took him 10,000 years to enter the Sage-to-be realm, which shocked all the creatures in the untainted land. There were also 2 celestial monarchs in the Immortal court. They were known as the Extreme Yin Fairy and the Extreme Yang Star Monarch. When they came to the world, their bodies released the power of Extreme Yin and Extreme Yang. They had also entered the Sage-to-be realm at the age of 10,000 years. Ghost Monarch Wu Shuang also had a devil child under him. He was born with the Tao of netherworld reincarnation. With just a blink of his eyes, he could send people into the 6 paths of reincarnation. No one knew how strong he was. There was also the prince of the sorcerer tribe who had attained the body of an ancient sorcerer. When he was born, he was blessed by the 12 ancestral sorcerers. With the cultivation of the Tongtian ground, he could definitely be called a favored one. Time passed quickly. 3 million years. The past was buried and the epoch was severed. No one knew about the history of 3 million years ago, and no one cared about the past. During these 3 million years, talents came out in large numbers from various races. They fought endlessly and had their victories and defeats. All of them wanted to become the lord of the untainted land. Unfortunately, no one could suppress the present world, and no one could unify the untainted land. Moreover, the masters of several major forces were working hard to obtain the sage position. After 3 million years, there was only one sage position left in the world. The 3 pure sages were high and mighty. The Ziwei Tian Di lived in seclusion in outer space. The Huta saint was supreme in the sorcerer tribe. According to legend, the last sage position was still empty. The greatest wish of the masters of various forces was to become the last sage of the heavenly path. The general history of the untainted land. It recorded the major events in the history of the untainted land and was compiled into a book by various races. However, what surprised the world was that in the general history of the untainted land, only the history within 3 million years was recorded. The history before 3 million years ago was only briefly mentioned. It only recorded that it was a calamity. There were no other records. It was as if there was something that could not be told to the world 3 million years ago. There were also archaeologists who wanted to trace the distant past. Unfortunately, although they found some clues, they closed their doors and did not come out. It was as if they had found a truth that they could not accept. The 33rd Celestial Court, the Immortal Heavenly Lord, Yi Xian. This sentence had long been buried in the dust of time. It was as if someone had deliberately erased this part of history, so that everything about Yi Xian would not appear in the world, let alone be known by all living beings. Although 3 million years had passed since then, some ancient immortals still couldn't forget the dark and tumultuous era. That taboo name was deeply engraved in their minds. Unfortunately, they didn't dare to make it public, nor did they dare to mention it. Because if they spoke that person's name and spoke of that dust-covered history, they themselves would suffer an unimaginable calamity. Because that person's name was the taboo of taboos. If anyone dared to say that name, it meant that his life had come to an end. There was once a genius of the Monster Clan who was favored by the Monster Clan ancestor. He relied on the Monster Clan ancestor's favor to ask the Monster Clan ancestor about the history of 3 million years ago. But when he asked this question, the Monster Clan ancestor's expression changed wildly. Fear flashed through his eyes. He angrily rebuked the descendant and even destroyed his cultivation. He warned the descendant never to mention the history of 3 million years ago. This matter was not only a taboo of the Monster Clan and the Human Clan. It was the same for all the major forces. This kind of thing happened constantly in the various clans. Countless disciples of various clans were severely punished. In the end, the descendants of various clans no longer dared to ask about it. With the passage of time, the history of 3 million years ago had become a taboo in the untainted land. No one cared about the past anymore. On top of a desolate mountain, there was a protruding tomb. 3 ancient trees blotted out the sky, and the chirping of birds could be heard. A few green leaves fell on top of the tomb, and a gentle breeze blew by, blowing the fallen leaves on top of the tomb into the distance. There was a lone grave without a tombstone, and no one worshipped it. It stood alone on this nameless mountain. It had experienced the baptism of time, and no one cared about who the bones in the grave belonged to. Ka, ka, ka. The soil on the tomb loosened and then slowly cracked open. An ancient bronze coffin appeared. This ancient bronze coffin was filled with the vicissitudes of time. Simple runes were carved on the ancient bronze coffin. Rumble. A muffled sound of the coffin opening could be heard. The coffin lid was moving away inch by inch, and a pure white arm slowly stretched out from the ancient bronze coffin. The soil on the coffin lid continued to fall. A pair of arms were completely exposed. A slender figure stood up shakily from the ancient bronze coffin. He was not wearing any shoes. His hair was as white as snow. His eyes were filled with confusion. He stared blankly at the world in front of him. A gentle breeze blew by, causing this person's silver-white hair to flutter in the wind. Chapter 1035. His eyes were blank and slightly sluggish. With the appearance of this person, heaven and earth instantly became still. The sound of insects and birds was originally endless, but at this moment, it suddenly became silent. Even the swaying vegetation in the wind seemed to be frozen. Who am I? The person muttered in confusion. It was him. He slowly closed his eyes. His entire person was like a weathered boulder. He did not open his eyes for a full 3 days and 3 nights, as if he was recalling the dusty past. I passed through the universe, condensed the heaven, and earth, experienced the destruction of my soul, and buried myself with my own hands. The person slowly opened his eyes. The confusion in his eyes disappeared, and a wisp of chaotic light flickered in his eyes. As his eyes opened and closed, a touch of desolation and sorrow flashed past. However, an invisible pressure slowly bloomed around him, and even heaven and earth became still. Who am I? I am Yi Xian. I am Yi Xian who never gave up and fought the heavenly Tao. I am Yi Xian who did not die when the 3 tribulations came. Yi Xian muttered to himself. His eyes gradually regained their light. Ha ha ha. Rumble. Thunder and lightning descended from the vast sky, and heaven and earth collapsed inch by inch. Yi Xian looked up to the sky and laughed hysterically. His vicissitudes and sorrowful laughter shook heaven and earth. There can be no construction without destruction, and construction after destruction. So this is the true profound meaning of the immortal scripture. Yi Xian said to himself sorrowfully. His entire person became silent. What was immortality? Seeking life in death and standing in life. The so-called true profound meaning of the immortal scripture was only understood by Yi Xian after 3 million years. He finally understood everything. The most heaven-defying part of the immortal scripture was to seek life in death. It buried his tribulation and buried himself. Rumble. A space-time tree sapling flickered between his eyebrows. Wisps of black ripples spread out between heaven and earth. The cultivation of the heavenly Tao's 7 tribulations faintly overflowed. The surrounding space and time were collapsing inch by inch. Even though my soul has been destroyed, I am still immortal. I have broken through the eternal cycle of reincarnation. I am still immortal. I am still me, but where is the person who passed away now? Yi Xian whispered sorrowfully, and a wisp of desolation flashed past his face. He gazed at the heavens and the earth in the surroundings, and he couldn't sense the familiar aura from before any longer. Moreover, he felt extremely unfamiliar with this primeval world. Without destruction, there can be no construction. After destruction, one can shed their cocoon and transform into a butterfly, and be reborn. 3 million years ago, in the battle of destruction, he used his own life to summon the river of time, allowing his future self to personally bury his current self. That battle was too tragic, and he was already at the end of the road. The mysterious fairy died in that battle, and the 33rd celestial court was crippled. He even exiled it into the endless void, and only then did he manage to escape. In that battle, he returned all his cultivation to Yuan Ling, completely severing the karma between him and Yuan Ling. 3 million years later, he was reborn and finally comprehended the ultimate meaning of the undying immortal scripture. 3 million years of sedimentation, from life to death, and from death to life, he struggled between life and death, and that wisp of indestructible will had never been extinguished. In that unseen world, Yi Xian finally comprehended the ultimate meaning of the undying immortal scripture. The so-called cultivation was only a manifestation of power, and was not his true foundation. The so-called calamity was also the karma that he had planted in the past. Although he returned all his cultivation to Yuan Ling, the calamity that he went through was not fake at all. His withered bones regenerated flesh and blood, and his lost cultivation was completely restored within 3 million years. Moreover, he was approaching the 8 calamities of the heavenly Tao. Moreover, after 3 million years, the space-time seed had already grown into a small tree. Back then, not only did he bury himself, but also the space-time power that he had painstakingly cultivated. After 3 million years, his cultivation and space-time power had already grown to an extremely terrifying level. He was already at the peak of the 7 calamities of the heavenly Tao. To put it bluntly, even if Tao ancestor Hung Jun stood in front of him at this moment, the outcome of the battle between the two of them would be hard to predict. And if Yi Xian stepped into the 8 calamities of the heavenly Tao, even if Tao ancestor Hung Jun had the support of the will of the heavenly Tao, he would still not be a match for Yi Xian. He could only be suppressed by Yi Xian. After 3 million years, he finally remembered the distant past, and the memories in his mind were surging towards him. However, although Yi Xian came back to life 3 million years later, and his cultivation was approaching the 8 calamities of the heavenly Tao, he was not happy. This was because the people and things that he was once familiar with were no longer there. He was the only one left in the vast world. The sea moves horizontally, and time changes. After 3 million years, who will still remember me, Yi Xian? Yi Xian muttered to himself. Loneliness, bleakness, and a touch of sadness. He looked at the world in front of him indifferently, and a self-deprecating smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. His old friends were no longer around, and the past was buried in the dust of time. However, there were some things that Yi Xian did not forget, and there were some grudges that he had to take revenge for. 3 million years can't cut off the past, and 3 million years can't destroy the karma of the past. Let me, Yi Xian, see what this world has become after 3 million years. Without the existence of heaven and earth, without the appearance of anything, Yi Xian took a step forward, and the heaven and earth were destroyed. If Tao ancestor Hung Jun saw such a method, he would probably be extremely shocked, because even he could not catch the trajectory of Yi Xian's departure. Stepping over mountains and rivers, crossing divine mountains and vast oceans, Yi Xian walked all over the eldritch wasteland. The celestial court of the 33 layers no longer existed, and the ancient demon court had disappeared without a trace. Even the underworld that controlled the 6 paths of reincarnation had disappeared. This was a eldritch wasteland where thousands of Daos contended, and it was also a eldritch wasteland where various races competed for hegemony. Time changed, and the mountains and rivers moved. All familiar people and things were buried in the dust of history. Yi Xian seemed to have turned into a mortal walking in the eldritch wasteland. There was no aura around him, and he slowly saw this strange world in his eyes. He once walked alone in the bustling city, admired flowers in the desert, roared in the vast sea, and drank wine and sang with the mortals. He was dead drunk, and he left in sorrow. He looked at the eldritch wasteland and felt that it was extremely strange. Heavenly Cloud Immortal City. In a tavern, there was a square table, a pot of strong wine, and a wine cup. The strong wine was poured into the cup, and Yi Xian drank it all in one gulp. Although it was a mortal thing, the burning sensation of the strong wine in his throat made him somewhat fond of it. He slowly closed his eyes, as if he was searching for the memories hidden in the depths of his mind. Yi Xian drank the strong wine cup after cup. His eyes were somewhat intoxicated, and his body emitted a strong smell of alcohol. It was not the strong wine that made him drunk, but he just wanted to empty his mind and think about the people he missed and the things of the past. Hey, have you heard? The geniuses of various races are gathering at Mount Buzhou to decide who is the #1 of the young generation in the Eldritch Wasteland. Pfft! How can I not know about such a grand event? I heard that these geniuses are all peerless talents, and are valued by the ancestors of various races. This event is simply unprecedented. Hee, you don't know about this, do you? I know a big secret. A burst of enthusiastic conversation came from the corner of the tavern. Several cultivators were discussing in low voices. Chapter 1036. What secret? One of the cultivators asked in surprise. Legend has it that the last strand of primordial violet vapor was buried in Mount Buzhou by Tao ancestor Hung Jun himself. Whoever obtains this strand of primordial violet vapor will become a Heavenly Path Sage. Heavenly Path Sage. Whoosh! Although the cultivators' voices were not loud, the people in the tavern were all cultivators. Naturally, they could hear their conversation, causing an uproar. Fellow Taoist, are you telling the truth? A demon clan cultivator asked in surprise, causing the people in the tavern to look at the cultivators. Of course it's true. It's all over the city now. This event seems to be a competition between the geniuses of various clans, but it's just an excuse. The real purpose is to find the primordial violet vapor. But we're all small cultivators who haven't become immortals. This event has nothing to do with us. I wonder who can find the primordial violet vapor and become the last Heavenly Path Sage. Heavenly Path Sage is a supreme figure. I think the Lord of the Immortal Court has the highest chance of becoming a sage. I don't think so. That ghost Emperor Wushuang is a Tongtian. He has the highest chance. Forget it. The last sage must be the Emperor Lord of the Sorcerer Clan. Who can compete with the Emperor Lord of the Sorcerer Clan? A large number of discussions were heard, causing the tavern to become extremely noisy. Bah! How dare these people claim to be invincible? All of a sudden, an old cultivator slammed the table and stood up. He reeked of alcohol and his face was flushed. Obviously, he was the one who said those words. Hey, isn't this great cultivator Lin? Aren't you always in seclusion to study ancient history? What's wrong with you today? How dare you be so disrespectful to the lord of the various clans? That's right. It's fine if you slander the Lord of the Immortal Court, but how dare you question the Demon Clan's Emperor? A Demon Clan cultivator shouted angrily. You old man, you're usually quiet. Why are you so drunk today? You're disturbing us all. Get out of here. The manager of the tavern quickly walked over and kept winking at the old man. Then, he quickly apologized to the cultivators of the various races in the tavern. Dear guests, please don't lower yourself to the level of this drunkard. I'll chase him out right now. Heavenly Cloud Immortal City was a holy land for cultivators. Cultivators from various clans who had yet to become immortals were gathered here. There was not a single mortal here. Naturally, cultivators from various clans were displeased by Great Cultivator Lin's words. At this moment, Great Cultivator Lin suddenly sobered up. Most of the alcohol in his body had dissipated. Sensing the many hostile gazes, he knew that he had caused a great deal of trouble. He hurriedly apologized to the cultivators of various races and quickly walked out the door. Hold on, old man, you boast shamelessly. You must give us an explanation today, or else. A shaman tribe cultivator spoke out in a sinister manner. It was obvious that he wanted to use the alcohol to play a trick on the old man. Seeing that these people had no intention of letting him go, Great Cultivator Lin's face turned red. Although he was called a great cultivator, it was actually a form of mockery towards him. He had lived in Heavenly Cloud Immortal City for hundreds of years. Aside from his hobby of studying the Great Desolate Era's history, his cultivation base was only at the nascent soul stage. Naturally, he was often looked down upon by others. Fine, don't you want an explanation? Today, even if this old man loses his life, I will tell you who is the true invincible throughout history. As the saying goes, even a clay figurine has a temper. The emotions that Great Cultivator Lin had suppressed for many years exploded at this moment, causing the cultivators of various races in the tavern to be stunned. Undying Heavenly Lord Yi Xian. Have you heard of him? Before the people in the tavern could react, the old man roared out. What undying Heavenly Lord? Old man, are you drunk? This was the first time they had heard these words, and a cultivator questioned. What Yi Xian? I have never heard of him. What nonsense are you talking about, old man? A few cultivators frowned and scolded coldly. At this moment, Great Cultivator Lin had nothing to lose. He angrily said, 3 million years ago, there was no such thing as the Great Desolate Era. The entire world was divided into 3 realms, and there were originally 7 heavenly sages. However, during that great calamity, undying Heavenly Lord Yi Xian killed the 2 sages of the West. He even fought against Tao ancestor Hongjuan's Pangu true body in the starry sky. That battle caused the collapse of the 3 realms, resulting in the Great Desolate Era today. If there is anyone in this world who can suppress the invincible throughout history, then it is only the legendary undying heavenly lord Yi Xian. Great cultivator Lin was furious. He pointed at the blue sky and said, "Look at the starry sky. Why is there a great heaven-sealing formation protecting it?" Because the great battle 3 million years ago had already shattered the starry sky. Even now, it is still filled with the terrifying power left behind by the undying heavenly lord. If it were to pour down, the entire great desolate era would suffer a great calamity. Silence. Silence. Extreme silence. When great cultivator Lin finished speaking in anger, an invisible terror spread through the tavern. The faces of the cultivators from various clans who refused to let go were extremely pale. Even though they didn't know about this secret, they knew that the calamity of obliteration from 3 million years ago was a taboo amongst taboo. So long as it was touched in the slightest, it would bring about a fatal calamity. If they knew the outcome would be like this, how could they have dared to make things difficult for great cultivator Lin? This great cultivator Lin knows the history of the great desolate era. I'm afraid his words. A cultivator trembled and his eyes were filled with great fear. Shut up. Old Master Lin drank too much. Did you drink too much too? This is just a joke the old master played with us. Why aren't you apologizing to old Master Lin? The cultivator from the witch clan was extremely terrified and reprimanded the cultivator loudly. Today's matter must not be spread out. Otherwise, we will all be killed. Someone lowered his voice and hurriedly reminded everyone in the tavern. For a moment, the entire tavern was terrifyingly silent. Buzz! All of a sudden, the void changed and a saber light flashed. A head was separated from the body of the demon clan cultivator. Large amounts of blood spurted out from the neck, causing everyone in the tavern to scream. Violating a taboo is a crime punishable by death. Today, everyone in this tavern must die. A murderous voice resounded in the tavern. The zenith heaven immortal light appeared in the tavern and attacked everyone. At this moment, Yi Xian sat alone in front of the window. One of the saber lights slashed at him. This caused his eyes to remain calm. When he opened and closed his eyes, space and time suddenly froze. Bang! The void trembled and a figure fell. An old man in his 50s fell to the ground. Clearly, the zenith heaven immortal art was released by this person. Who dares to interfere with the law enforcement of the immortal court? Thud, thud, thud. Like the auspicious clouds of the 9 heavens, like the rolling clouds of the mountains, Yi Xian strolled to the front of this person and said in a low voice, "I see that you are also a zenith heaven immortal. Why do you want to kill these cultivators who have not yet become immortals?" Yi Xian's voice was calm and peaceful, untainted by dust. Although his voice was very soft and did not have the slightest aura, an extremely terrifying feeling rose in the Daluo Jinxian's heart. It also made him realize that the black-clothed man in front of him must have an unimaginable cultivation. It was very likely that he was a terrifying quasi-saint. However, he did not show the slightest fear. The zenith heaven immortal light spread out and he said to Yi Xian, "No matter which quasi-saint you are, anyone who violates a taboo must die. This is a taboo set by all races. Even if you kill me here today, you will not be able to escape Heavenly Cloud Immortal City." Hearing this person's words, Yi Xian murmured, "A taboo of all races? After 3 million years, when I woke up from my slumber, Yi Xian, have actually become a taboo?" Yi Xian said with a self-deprecating smile. Although Yi Xian's words were soft, they fell clearly into the Daluo Jinxian's ears. He was stunned, as if he could not believe what he had heard. You're tuning into the Blissful Bookshelf YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.